It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling.
Hi guys, for today's video, I'm doing another long format content video. I am still taking a break and I explained in last week's video if you want to know more. But for today's video, I'm doing every Draw Your Journal page that I have ever done. If you don't know what Draw Your Journal is, it's my journal that I wrote. It's available on Amazon if you'd like to purchase it. Basically, it's a prompt journal about your life. It's kind of like a diary, except instead of writing words, you're drawing about your life in it. It would make a great Christmas gift, I'm just saying. Let's get started with every single page that I've done. Okay, so here we have Draw Your Journal. This is the cover, and I'm flipping to the back cover. Notice there is a lock and a key with hearts inside the keys. That is because this is supposed to be like your personal diary or journal, and it's the key to your heart. Let's take a look inside the book now. Here we have the cover page, the copyright page where you can put your name, and the materials list. There are dry materials and wet materials. If you use wet materials, my advice is to use a separate piece of paper because it could bleed through the page. The index is meant for you to keep track of which pages you've done. You can create your own secret language. Each page in this book is meant to be personal to you. So it's your dream vacation, your fairy tale, your spirit animal, your alter ego, your album cover if you had one, anything that makes you you. I'm gonna start off with the copyright page and put "This journal belongs to Bella," or my signature, Bellamena. In hindsight, I really did not have to cut out a separate piece of paper for this because I ended up using colored pencils. I erased my pencil markings and took out my Prismacolor colored pencils to color in this signature with rainbow colors. The return of the rainbow slide. In this case, I feel like this rainbow slide is more of a rainbow roller coaster, doing loop-de-loops, going upside down, and I love it.
Yeah, I like that.
So I connected all of the little rainbow pieces and swirls that were part of the BELLA, and of course at the end of my rainbow is a rainbow shooting star. They exist in real life, just you gotta look outside, guys. Kids these days, they never go outside. Taking out my black colored pencil and adding a drop shadow to the right sides of the letters, as well as the floor on the bottom of the letters to make it look like they're really three-dimensional and sitting. Here I am trying to get a tiny colored pencil blender to focus. It's not gonna happen. Using my nub to blend out all of the colors. I strongly believe I should have left the background white, but I always make at least one mistake that I hate. I shouldn't have made the background yellow, but I glued it into the book as is, and then I took my white pencil and blended it even more. She's not the best, but she's decent. I'm taking out my white gel pen and adding some highlights. Up next, it's time to color in the background. And I will admit to you guys that my camera stopped recording during this process. Something weird always happens to me, I swear.
But what the heck was that?
I was, however, able to get myself coloring in the background of the left side of the page, so I suppose this really doesn't matter at all because I did the same thing to both sides, but I feel it's important to admit when you don't do things perfectly. Anyway, once I was done layering all the colors, I took my colored pencil blender, and you can really see the colors get more vibrant when you start blending them out, and this is what the final thing turned out looking like. This page is definitely not perfect, and I had some mishaps along the way, but overall, I really like how the colors all blend together. I like how it looks colorful, but also simple, you know? Up next, we're still doing some intro pages to Draw Your Journal. I'd like everyone to note that there are doodles on the cover of the book, but then there are no doodles on the cover page. That is because I actually wanted you guys to be able to draw your own doodles on the cover page. Or you can copy mine, it doesn't really matter, I don't really care. The only rule I have for doodles is that you can't make fun of them. Except for this one. What the heck is that? The point I'm trying to make here is doodles are doodles. They're not supposed to be things that are well thought out. They're not even supposed to look good. They're just supposed to be little drawings that you make with like a pen or a fine liner. And sometimes they are ugly. Take this, for example. I don't know what this is. Another important thing about doodles is they are random. Balloons, smileys, hearts, clouds, suns, and it does not have to look good. I'm very passionate about the subject of doodling without judgment. Okay, guys, this is a judgment-free zone. You can make any doodles you want, and it doesn't have to look good. I think we've heard enough of me ranting, but that's my only rule. No one make fun of my doodles. They are doodles. Doodles deserve to be free. I'm not gonna even comment on whether I like this page or don't like this page. In fact, I am just gonna say this page was very fun to make. Up next, we're flipping to the page that says, draw your secret language. Draw a symbol for each letter in the alphabet. So notice you have all of those boxes with letters above them. I've started you guys off with an arrow being the letter A. So now anytime you write that arrow, it will be actually the letter A. It's a secret code. So for my secret code, I've decided to make the letter B be represented as a butterfly, the letter C be represented as a cat, the letter D be represented as a diamond. There's a pattern here. It's a little bit easy to break my code because each of my symbols start with the letter they're representing. For example, money, first letter is an M. Joystick, first letter is a J. Heart, first letter is an H. You don't have to do this. You could do literally anything. I mean, you could put numbers in these boxes. You could draw anything. They don't have to start with the same first letter. I just did that to make it easier for me to read. I also chose emojis for my code because I wanted to be able to write in the comments with my secret language. Anyway, so the fun part about this is once you have all of your symbols, you can use them together to make words and secret messages. And here we have the final page. I'm so excited that I have my secret language all set up. I'm not gonna lie, I'm also really excited that I remembered to use emojis for each of my letters because now I can make decodable comments on my videos. Up next, we're going to flip to an actual prompt in the book, Draw Your Birthstone. If you don't know what a birthstone is, basically every month of the year, like all 12 months, have a birthstone that's associated with it. So depending on what month you're born, you will have a specific birthstone that you can draw for this page. I was born in the month of December. My birthday is December 30th. And there are 3 birthstones associated with December. There's turquoise, which is my favorite. There's zircon and tanzanite. All 3 of them are different shades of blue, so I have decided to just make blue stones. I'm taking out my alcohol markers, which always mysteriously have this one white Posca paint pen. To tell you the truth, I just like to keep it in there for safekeeping. Get back in the bag. I selected 3 alcohol markers. They're green, blue, and gray. I think they are a little dark, but that is okay because I'm intending to just use these as the base color to the jewels. I'll add some shiny effects later. But first, we're going to be coloring in the kitten. I've decided on this bright pink color. I was not influenced by the pink background. I was. And now it's time for my favorite part, the shading. I decided to use all different shades of blue and green and white. I did some weird shading on the kitten. I mean, the pink was a weird choice, the purple outline is weird. I don't know, but I like it a lot. I'm cutting out the kitten and the birthstones, and I'm going to organize them and place them in the book. After gluing those down, I wrote December down the side of the book, and this is what the final thing turned out looking like. I'm really happy that I mixed all 3 of the birthstones together, and I also really like that I incorporated a kitten. I just like cats. That has nothing to do with my birthstone. Draw your index. Use this page to track which pages you've completed. If we flip to the very last page, we can see the last page is 205, which means this book has 103 prompts. Just counting up how many squares are on the page, and we're taking out my ruler. I'm including the page number and the date that I completed that page on. Each prompt in Draw Your Journal starts on an odd page number, and that's why I decided to only write odd numbers. Taking out a separate piece of paper, although you can't really tell because the background is white, but I promise you that is a separate piece of paper. And I'm using my Micron fine liner to outline the girl. This is supposed to be me. Me. I'm taking out my Cali Art markers. I selected 4 skin tones, which is a bit excessive if you ask me, but this is cartoon me, and we're coloring her in as best as we possibly can. I colored in my brown hair and tried to make some highlights. This is a pretty small cartoon, and I'm doing it on printer paper, so things got a little murky. I put myself in some blue jeans because, I mean, jeans are nice, as well as a red t-shirt and some red shoes. Cut myself out and pasted it into the book, erased my pencil markings, and took out my colored pencils to start coloring and decorating this index. Now, if you are astute, you will notice something is incorrect about this index. I was a math major in college, and the mistake I made here is honestly embarrassing. I'll tell you what that mistake was in a second. But first, I colored in the background with my rainbow pastel colors. I went back and darkened those colors up, as well as blended them out with my colored pencil blender. At this point, I was feeling like my index was a bit boring, so I decided to add some extra stuff. I have a flower, I have a happy face, I have a rainbow, etc. I took an excruciating amount of time deciding where to place each of these items, and once I finally decided on their spots, I glued them into the book. Up next, I took out my Jelly Roll white gel pen to add some highlights to these items. And here comes the very dumb part of this video. I was coloring in the boxes I had already completed when I realized it stopped at page 103. But wait, didn't we say there were 205 pages in the book? Yes. A slight miscalculation. Let me explain how I made this mistake. There are 103 prompts in this book. If I had written numbers 1 through 103 without skipping any numbers, this would have been fine. But I wrote every other number, the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7. If you're skipping numbers like this to actually get to 103 prompts, you need 205 pages. If none of this made any sense to you at all, that's okay. Just know my index is fixed, and now every time I complete a page, I can write the date and color in its corresponding box. The next prompt is draw your dots. As you guys know, Draw Your Journal is intended to be a visual diary. So this page will be a personal experience that I have with dots. If you were to do this page, you would have to think about how dots apply to your life. Do you have a backpack with polka dots on it? Is your dog a Dalmatian? Do you work for the Department of Transportation? Probably not. Before I explain my dots, what the heck is this? That's not a circle. Taking out my eraser and erasing any pencil markings. I'm also taking out a blue alcohol marker and coloring in the sky for this Ferris wheel. Now you might be thinking to yourself, what the heck does a Ferris wheel have to do with dots, Marissa? Everything. I'm setting the scene. When I was younger, I went on a trip to Coney Island with my family. If you don't know what Coney Island is, it's a place in Brooklyn, New York that has an amusement park. It has a bunch of rides there, including a famous Ferris wheel. My blue alcohol marker ran out of ink again, and I decided to take your advice. A few of you left comments last video saying I should dip my markers into alcohol to make them go a little further. This did work for like a second, and then it ran out for real, but I got enough out of it. I took out a dark blue colored pencil and started on the shading for each of the rods on this Ferris wheel. In hindsight, I think there are just way too many poles on this Ferris wheel. I don't even think this would physically work out. I've literally never seen anyone in a Ferris wheel sit in a square box. I'm gonna stop thinking about it. Once I was done with the shading, I cut that out and put it into the book. And now we're ready to move on to the part of this drawing that actually has the meaning of the prompt in it. The prompt was to draw your dots. I'm trying to draw my hand holding a cup of something called Dippin' Dots. Dippin' Dots? Dippin' Dots, yes, Dippin' Dots. I really don't know why they're dipping. What are they dipping in?
It's so confusing.
If you've been to an amusement park in the United States, you have probably tried this. They're basically little balls of ice cream or popsicles. I'm taking out popsicle colors and coloring in each individual dot. This took so long to color. Before the Dippin' Dot fanatics attack me, I just want to set the record straight here. If I were to actually order Dippin' Dots in person, yes, I would get the chocolate and vanilla flavor. I would not get the popsicle flavor. I'm not a psycho. After giving the hand its base color, I took a gray marker and added some shading to the cup to really define all of the ridges and make it look more spherical. After painting the nail polish, I took a light blue colored pencil for some condensation on the cup. I also took out some skin-toned colored pencils for the hand. And as I was doing this, we had an unfortunate tragedy. It was so young. I'll stop. After shading the hand, I moved to shade the dots. What? No, you heard me right. I shaded all of the dots. Now that we're zoomed in real close, you can see there's a gap between each of these dots, and I filled them in. I don't want to talk about it. I then took a white paint pen to add more condensation to the cup. I also created some highlights on the nails as well as the top part of the Dippin' Dots. I outlined Dippin' Dots because that's the way their logo is. I cut out my hand and then put it in the book. And this is what the final page turned out looking like. I'm really happy with this page. I feel like the hand looks much better than my usual drawings of hands. And I also really like how happy this page looks, and it really emphasizes how much I love Dippin' Dots. Before we move on, I just want to say thank you so much to anyone that's purchased Draw Your Journal. I know there's so many more of you that have purchased it than have sent me pictures. These look so cool. Up next, we're flipping to the page that says Draw Your Star, Draw a Constellation. I'm taking out a bunch of colored pencils, and I'm very lightly pressing to block in the colors on this page. I really made sure that the first layer of colored pencils was very light and could be blended later. Once I have all of the placement of my colors, I then went in with my darkest color and actually started pressing hard. I was really pressing hard, and I know this because my wrist started to hurt. And whenever my wrist starts to hurt, it means I'm really pressing too hard. I broke my wrist when I was in 3rd grade, and ever since, something like this will give me a wrist ache. I'm fine. Anyway, back to the prompt. If you notice, it says to draw your star. So I started to think about what my star is. The thing I came up with was the Capricorn constellation. I was born in December, so I'm a Capricorn, and there is a specific arrangement of stars called a constellation for Capricorns. I kind of hate its placement. I should have made it smaller. Why is it so big? We don't know. Anyway, I took out some watery white paint, splattered it onto the galaxy. I went over the prompt with a white gel pen, and this is what the final thing turned out looking like. I am so happy with this page. I know it's not a perfect galaxy. I think there's a lot going on, but I really like how cool it looks, and I'm shocked that I was even able to do this with colored pencils. I didn't think I could. Draw your alter ego. Draw 2 versions of yourself in different scenarios. An alter ego is like a secondary personality. It's like there's 2 parts to yourself. There's a part to you that everyone sees, and then there's another part to you that not everyone notices. And that is your alter ego. After finishing up my sketch, I took out my Micron fine liner and outlined everything. There are 2 versions of me. There's one version on the right that everyone on YouTube sees, the mysterious floating head of a YouTuber. I put artsy looking doodles around this version of myself. And then on the left, I'm drawing things that describe my alter ego, the thing that you guys don't necessarily see all the time, but I do every day. Taking out my Cali Art markers, the alcohol markers I got on Amazon. We've now added another mysterious thing. I don't know why there is an orange Crayola marker with a Posca paint pen. Now to explain my alter ego. On the right, that's the version of me that is talkative and outgoing and likes to put makeup on and draw things that look cute on YouTube. On the left side, we have my alter ego. She looks very stressed. Some of you know this and some of you don't, but I am actually a computer scientist. What? I know it's shocking. No one ever believes me when I say this, but yes, I work as a computer scientist full-time, Monday through Friday. It's my job. People ask me, why did I become a computer scientist? And the reason is I really liked math in school. I was very good at it. I was very ahead in my math classes, and I naturally kind of liked computer science. I was trying to draw this computer science alter ego as having no makeup because I generally work with no makeup, but it did end up looking quite sad and tired. I'm fine. Taking out my 132 pack of Prismacolor colored pencils, and we are going to be doing my absolute favorite part of any piece, the shading. I really like the shading process just because it adds a lot of detail to it. I feel like everything comes together at the last possible second. I've presented to you my alter ego being the computer scientist, but I think it's interesting because if I asked people that I work with which one was my alter ego, they would definitely say YouTube, because they don't even know that I have a YouTube channel. For me, I think of myself mainly as someone that likes to talk and is artistic, so I think I would identify more with the YouTube personality than with the computer science personality. But it is interesting that depending on who you ask, your alter ego might be different to them. Anyway, here's the results for my alter ego page. On the left, we have me as a computer scientist looking very tired, and on the right, we have me on YouTube as an artist. Moving on to the next page, we're doing the page that says, Draw your spirit animal. Draw an animal that represents your personality. For this page, I decided to be objective and take a personality test. You can be a lion, an otter, a golden retriever, or a beaver. You add up your numbers, and the highest number is what you are. So I took this test, I added them all up, and I got a tie between a beaver and an otter. This is actually very interesting because I actually got both parts of my alter ego in this personality quiz results. The quiz describes a beaver personality as someone that's very practical and logical, and it gives two careers for the beaver. One is an accountant and one is an engineer, which could be a computer scientist. The quiz describes an otter as someone that's very friendly, very outgoing, talkative, and artistic. So it's interesting that I tied for the beaver and the otter. It's like I tied for being a computer scientist and a YouTuber. But which one is my real alter ego? Maybe we're not meant to know. Maybe we'll never know. Erasing my pencil markings, and let's talk about alcohol markers. I knew they were too good to be true. Yes, alcohol markers. I watched on Friday Mariah Elizabeth's latest video, Create This Book, number 12, and in that video, Mariah mentions that alcohol markers just fade away into the relentless march of time. Now, this is something I have never heard of before just because I know barely anything about art supplies, if we're being honest here. When it comes to buying art supplies, I usually just buy something that's cheaper because I'm worried to buy something too expensive when I don't know much about it. Now, I did some research, and people have different results with using closed books versus having it in sunlight, different supplies, but the truth is it does fade away. Let me get this straight. I've been creating art with alcohol markers, and it fades away? Excuse me? I felt like I was completely blindsided, just slammed by a bus with this tidbit of information. And I mean, I'm not completely dense. I do realize that museums have teams with restoration people that make sure art doesn't fade away completely. But I thought that was more on like a hundreds of years kind of scale. Not in my lifetime. Not in the next decade. Some alcohol markers, the blue colors, will fade away in a year's time. 1 year. According to my research, other colors will fade away a little bit slower, but generally within 10, 15, 20 years, your artwork will completely disappear. Is that not insane? On a more serious note, if anyone has any tips for alternatives to alcohol markers that are like similar but don't fade away as quickly, please let me know, because I love alcohol markers and I'm so sad that they fade away so quickly. I'm worried about it. But maybe I don't have to be. Has anyone had a positive experience? I don't know. Taking out my white gel pen and adding some highlights to the otter and the beaver's eyes, as well as the water. I wanted to make it look nice and sparkly. I put that in the book, and this is what the final page turned out looking like. I am very happy with the results of this one. I like how much fun I had with it. I added a lot of colors to the water and a lot of details to the grass. I just think this one came out really cute, and it reminds me of an illustration in a children's book. Before we move on to the next prompt, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone that has purchased Draw Your Journal, and those of you who have been sending me pictures of your pages. They look so cool, especially Squirtle right there. Aww. Up next, we're turning to the prompt that says, draw your mood tracker. This one might take a little bit of explanation. So a mood tracker is something that people typically use in bullet journals. They're used to track your mood over a period of time. Hence why they're called mood trackers. So for example, you could draw a gumball machine, and inside the gumball machine, there's all different gumballs. On each day of the month, you would color the gumball the color that you are feeling. So in my case, I have made a string of stars, and each star is represented by a day in September. September has 30 days. Taking out some colored pencils, these are blue with one yellow. I'm using that very pale yellow color to outline everything and make it look like it's glowing against a blue sky. I shaded the sky very lightly at first before going back in and darkening things up. I then moved on to mood colors: pink for productive, red for happy, yellow for tired, and orange for sad. So I just colored in the stars with the corresponding color for how I was feeling each day. That broke. On days where there were mixed emotions, I put 2 colors, and I only went up to September 17th because the month is not over yet. But I will make sure to color in the rest of the stars as the month progresses. I like this page. I'm actually bummed it's over because there's like an infinite amount of ways you can creatively track your mood. It's crazy. I would also like to note that I now have Draw Your Journal merch available on Teespring, so you can wear the logo on your clothes. Here is my Draw Your Journal, and I'm flipping to the page that says Draw Your Comic Strip. Create a story using these boxes. Just so we make sure everyone is on the same page here. A comic strip typically consists of a sequence of drawings that tell one whole story. So there are 10 boxes here, and in each box, I'm going to show the next scene in the story. After sketching out each scene, I took out my eraser and erased the sketches so that no one can see them anymore, except me. I then started coloring these boxes in. In the first box, there is this cat that kind of looks like a bear, admittedly, and it's roasting a marshmallow. In our third scene, you can see that as the marshmallow is being roasted, it actually melts and drips onto the paw of this cat.
Oh my god!
Now, if you watched last week's Squishy Makeover video, you may be able to tell where this storyline is going. In the next scene, you see Graham looking quite upset that he has some marshmallows on him. He goes, heh, and he shakes his paw. He can't get the marshmallow off his paw, so he starts moving around and stretches it and somehow gets it on both of his paws. The basic idea for this comic strip was to serve as an origin story of sorts for Graham the s'more cat. Why does Graham have s'mores all over him? How did he become such a mess? Wasn't he a normal cat when he was born? All your questions will be answered. So this is like the storyline of how he became who he is today. In the following scene, Graham has gotten himself into quite the position. He has gotten marshmallows on all 4 of his paws now. He tries to stretch out his marshmallow-covered limbs, and it splashes all over his body, all over his head, his paws. It's really everywhere, and Graham looks quite upset about this at this point. But wait, we have one more box to finish up this story. So in the last box, I decided to make Graham look much happier. He has accepted his marshmallow status. This broke. Perfect, we can still use that. And lastly, I added a smile to Graham, just like his squishy. I'm taking out my colored pencils again and coloring in the background with very bright colors. I chose not to create a background that was very detailed for this comic strip because typically comics don't really have a very detailed background. I also felt like I really wanted the focus of the comic strip to be on Graham and what was happening in the storyline rather than the background. So I prefer to have the blank colors in the background. I think it makes everything pop out, and I really think it made it look like a comic strip. Once I had finished coloring in the background, I took out my white Posca paint pen and just added some sparkles to Graham's eyes. Graham's eyes are very sparkly on the squishy, and I really wanted to keep that consistent in this cartoon. And here is what the final comic strip turned out looking like. You can see Graham roasts a marshmallow, gets it all over his paws. He looks pretty upset. After struggling quite a bit, Graham grows to accept his new marshmallow status. At the end, Graham has that derpy face that I drew on his squishy. I'm pretty happy with the way this origin story for Graham turned out, and I think we're ready to move on to the next page. Up next, we're turning to the page that says, Draw Your Eyes. There's no other explanation, just draw your eyes. So for this, I'm going to take this quite literally. I am going to literally attempt to draw a realistic eye. My own eye, actually. We'll see how this goes.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm taking out my colored pencils, and we're going to do this entirely with Prismacolor colored pencils. I definitely don't consider myself to be an expert in realism. I typically draw in a cartoon type of style, and this is actually the first time I have ever even tried drawing a realistic eye using only Prismacolor colored pencils. So go easy on me. I am trying my best. And I like to think that on this channel, we're okay with experimenting, and if I'm not the best at something, I think that's always been pretty apparent that if I make a mistake, I don't really care. The bunnies. No, not the bunnies! This is what my attempt looked like at a realistic eye, and not just any realistic eye. I am really trying to make my own eye. In fact, I actually printed out a picture of myself to really try to get the eye shape correct. And then I was taking several pictures of my eye to make sure I was getting the eye color correct. By the end, I think I really did get the eye color. Moving on to the hair step of this, I did the eyebrow, and then we moved on to the eyelashes. I found the eyelashes step to be quite confusing. I felt like I wasn't putting enough of them, and then I felt like, I don't know, I just still feel like there might not be enough eyelashes. How many eyelashes do you add? How many times can I say eyelashes in 30 seconds? I don't know. We're gonna put it in the book anyway. Once the page was in the book, I outlined the prompt just in case I forgot what the giant eye was supposed to be for, and this is what the final page turned out looking like. Even though I feel like I potentially could have added more eyelashes, I do feel like this does look like my eyeball somewhat, so I'm pretty happy with this. If you would like to preview Draw Your Journal, all you have to do is go to my website, bellamena.com, and click on the tab that says Newsletter. If you enter your email into the subscription box, I will email you 5 extra pages that are not included in Draw Your Journal, and you can preview what it's like to own the book. Okay, up next we have Draw Your Instrument. Draw your favorite musical instrument. When I was in school, I was in band from grades 3 all the way until 12th grade. My colored pencil broke again. What a surprise. Betrayal every time. When I was in band, I played the flute from 3rd grade all the way up until 12th grade, and I even went to band camp some years for the flute. I decided to draw this bear to have a marching band outfit on, so that entails a coat and a hat. When I was in high school, I actually was not in marching band, but that was only because my high school didn't have a marching band. However, I know for a fact that if my high school had a marching band, I would have been in it. I was in the symphonic band, the pit orchestra, and the jazz band, and I played the flute and piccolo in all three of those things. I guess I was a band geek, huh? So you might be asking yourself, well, if you weren't in marching band, why did you draw a marching band outfit? So I do have a reason for this. It is a bit random and will require some explanation on my part. There's kind of two reasons for this. The first reason is I just think the marching band outfit looks cute on the bear. That's just a side note, it looks cute. The second reason is a little more confusing. When I was in high school, I really liked Taylor Swift. And at that time, the You Belong With Me music video was very popular, where she wore a marching band outfit. So when I think of myself playing the flute, I think of myself in high school. And when I think of myself in high school, I think of Taylor Swift. And I think I just kind of combined those things in my mind. So that's why this page makes sense for my journal, I guess. I hope that makes sense to you. I added a bunch of music notes coming out of the flute. I felt like the left side of the page was a little bit too plain, and I also gave them a little bit of a shadow just to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. And this is what the final page turned out looking like. I really like this page. I think it's really cute. I do realize that the bear's left hand placement is incorrect in case we have some people that play the flute out here. It is wrong, but I felt like it looked cuter in that spot, so that's why I drew it like that. I don't know why I find this page so funny. And here we have all three of the pages that I did for this episode of Draw Your Journal. I do have 3 other episodes of Draw Your Journal that you can watch. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week for another video. Bye!
Hey, playing songs on the radio. Sing along to the words that we don't know.
I'm flipping to the page that says, Draw Your Pun. Draw a picture with 2 meanings. As an example, we have laughs more, worry less, and there's a picture of a s'more. Once I was done with my sketch, I took out my eraser, which was conveniently on top of my pencil, and erased my pencil markings. I also took out Marge. Marge is actually one of the first squishies I ever created, and I love her a lot. I'm using these colored pencils, as well as this very small white colored pencil, to draw this Marge pun. So if you don't know what a pun is, basically it's something that has 2 meanings, a word that has 2 meanings, or even a picture. Marge is a combination between a snail and an axolotl, I think. I don't know how to say that. I know I said it wrong in my first squishy makeover video, and a lot of people were like, no, you said it wrong. But I've been practicing.
Axolotl.
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 Axolotl. I'll get there. Anyway, so I'm coloring in Marge with her typical tie-dye swirl in the center. That's kind of the third piece of her combo. She's a snail, axolotl, and tie-dye. A lot going on for her. I personally am a really big fan of drawing tie-dye. I find it very easy to do, and it turns out looking cool almost every time I do it. So I quite enjoyed this page. It was quite simple, but very fun. But it's not just fun. It's also a pun. See what I did there? I'm rhyming. For this pun, Marge is going to say something. So since Marge is part snail, she's gonna say, snailed it. Get it? Instead of nailed it, she snailed it. Cause she's a snail. Marge, you're so funny. You're hilarious. She's such a jokester. Honestly, Marge is a mess at all times, as we like to say, and Marge is just one of my favorite characters that I've probably ever made. I think she's just funny as a character. She just looks odd, which is something I really like about her. I find her quite endearing, and I love the pun. If you would like to preview Draw Your Journal, you can actually go to my website, bellamena.com, and if you click on the newsletter tab under home, enter your email into that subscription box, and I will email you 5 extra pages that are not included in the book, and you can like preview what it's like to own the book. Moving on to the page that says, draw your juiciest secret. Use your secret language if necessary. Juiciest secret, juiciest secret. I can't say it. Huh. For this page, I am sketching out a boy's face, taking out my eraser and just erasing all of the lines on this boy's face until you can no longer see my sketches anymore. Where did they go? Spooky. Taking out my Prismacolor colored pencils. This is a 132 pack of colored pencils, and we are going to be using this to color in the boy's face. By this point, I'm sure you've guessed who the male is. It's ZHC, or Zach. I have been keeping a secret from you guys that I did reveal to you a week ago, but I thought I'd talk a little bit more about it since the show is going to be airing on Wednesday, and I know everything. Oh my gosh. Like I said in my last video, I am one of the contestants on Instant Influencer Season 2 with ZHC. It airs this Wednesday, October 27th. I'm assuming that most people that end up watching the show will watch this video first, so if you're from Instant Influencer from the future, hello, welcome. What was I saying? Oh yes, okay, so Instant Influencer. I can't actually tell you any information about the show. How annoying. I know, it is annoying. I wish I could tell you. I'm actually just not allowed to reveal any information until it has been aired on the show. So you do actually have to watch it if you want to find out what happens. In summary, I have secrets and I can't tell you them. If we move our attention to the actual piece that I'm drawing here, I am attempting to draw Zach's face. Now, when you judge my art, I would like it to be taken into consideration that 1, I don't usually do realism. 2, I've literally never done a realistic portrait with colored pencils ever. So this is really like my first ever actual attempt at doing realistic skin with colored pencils only, so go easy on me, please. If there's one thing I've learned from using colored pencils is that you need to build the color up very slowly, and I mean very slowly. Like, do not press the pencil too hard, or it will, not to be dramatic, ruin everything. I realized the iris was in the wrong location. I moved it over slightly. Realize. I also colored in the eyebrow individually, each hair. I looked at a photo of Zach and really tried to get the exact eyebrow pattern that he has. Taking out some blue and green colored pencils to color in Zach's sweatshirt. Another part of my colored pencil strategy has been to start with the shading first. So in this case for the sweatshirt, I started with a warm gray and then I started adding in the blue tones. After I had all of my tones in, I blended everything out. After that, I moved on to the hair. I would say this part of the piece gave me the most problems just because I didn't watch any tutorial videos on how to do hair with colored pencils ahead of time, so I was kind of just guessing. Overall, I think the hair turned out okay, all things considered, but there is some room for improvement in future pieces. To the left of Zach, I decided to draw a paint splash or a paint blob. The thumbnail for the trailer for the Instant Influencer show has a bunch of paint splashes behind Zach. So I thought it would be fun to have one big pink paint splash right next to Zach's face to kind of like hint at the Instant Influencer thing. By the time I was done actually drawing this paint splash, I felt like I wanted it to be a little more obvious about the Instant Influencer thing. So right in the center of the paint splash, I wrote Instant Influencer. In hindsight, it probably would have been more fun to use my secret language, but I didn't think of it at the time, and now I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing it. But this is what the final page turned out looking like. I'm actually pretty happy with this one. I think the drawing does actually resemble Zach. I know it's not like exact Zach. There's too many puns. I also know it's gonna be really fun to look back at this page when I finally complete Draw Your Journal and do a flip through and just go, oh yeah, remember right before Instant Influencer aired? I like that I have that documented. Before we move on to the next page, I just wanted to say thank you so much to anyone that has bought Draw Your Journal. I know so many of you have gotten it, and so many of you have been sending me pages. I love seeing them. These all look so cute. Let's move on to the next page. Draw your nails. Draw your ideal manicure. My nails currently have a gel manicure on them, and that is actually because I recently purchased my own gel manicure set from Amazon. Fancy. It comes with a UV light and everything. I feel like an official nail person. Exciting stuff. I can get a professional level gel manicure at home for the low price of, you guessed it, $39.99. $39.99. I paid like $80. I guess it was for my hands and my feet, but I'm never doing that again. Am I being dramatic? Sure, I'm being a bit dramatic. But in all seriousness, all my nail problems have been solved. I frequently, obviously, am showing my hands on camera on the internet, and I just don't want my nail polish to be chipped. So we've got that problem solved, and I'm documenting this momentous occasion in my journal. On the left side of the page, I'm drawing some drippy nail polish bottles. This is something I've been wanting to draw for a while. I know it was a trend on Instagram where I saw a bunch of these pictures coming up. I don't know who the original artist was for that, but I'll try to link them if I can find it. I chose to do a hot pink on the bottom, a nude pink in the middle, and then a purple color on top. While I do like the way this page came out, I do have a minor complaint. I feel like the hands outline, the black outline, is too dark by comparison, and it makes it look like it's drawn in a different style when it really wasn't. In spite of that one complaint, I do really like the nail polish on the left side. I'm flipping to the page that says, draw your unpopular opinions. Draw things that are unpopular to like or dislike. Unpopular opinions. Okay. So my unpopular opinion is, I think, gonna be quite an unpopular opinion. I am sketching out my drawing and all the things that I have some unpopular opinions about. Here's my eraser, and we're just erasing these lines until you can barely see that they're even there. Where did they go? Spooky. Taking out my 132 pack of Prismacolor Premier colored pencils. I've been really loving using these recently. Here they are. These are the colors I will be using for this piece. I've been nervous to do this page because unpopular opinions are, well, unpopular, and I don't want you people to be upset with me. But here we are. You'll notice that I am drawing pumpkins. And before we get into my unpopular opinion, I would like to say I do like pumpkins. I like the fall. It's probably my favorite season. I mean, the summer is pretty great, but I love the fall. I love pumpkins. I love to look at them. I love to paint on them. I love to carve them. But the taste of pumpkin. How do I put this? I don't get it. Like, the taste of pumpkin is okay, but I don't understand why everyone likes it so much. Like, it's just not a flavor that I really enjoy at all. I don't understand why everyone's so excited for pumpkin season, where we get to eat pumpkin spice lattes and pumpkin flavored drinks and pumpkin muffins and pumpkin pie. 3 colored pencils in a row. That has to be a record. And let me back up here. Like, thematically, I'm on board. I'm totally on board. I love the fall. I think the fall is awesome. I love the colors. I love pumpkins just in general. Like, if you think about a pumpkin in nature we have a lot of green, a lot of brown, a lot of blue in the sky, and then all of a sudden you see an orange pumpkin, and you're like, how is this possible? It's so pretty, so bright. It doesn't make any sense. But the flavor, why are we eating them? That's my question. Even pumpkin pie, I have qualms with. The texture alone is so upsetting. It's like mush. It's just like a triangle of mush. Who likes pumpkin pie? Does anyone like it, or are we all just eating it? That's what I want to know about that. As for the rest of the decorations around this piece, I actually really love fall leaves. I love the colors. That's not an unpopular opinion. I just thought it went really well with the fall theme we have going on here. So we have a mixture. We have a mixture of likes and dislikes. In summary, my total unpopular opinion is that pumpkins are not meant to be eaten. Pumpkins should be looked at, they should be decorated with, but we should stop eating them. After I was fully done with this page, I took a matte Mod Podge and then glued it into the book. And here is what the final page turned out looking like. I personally really love the colors of fall. I love looking at pumpkins, and I love all the shading that was involved in this. I just think we should stop eating them. Who's with me? Probably no one, because I'm assuming that everyone loves pumpkins, because it's so popular. Before we move on to the next page, I just wanted to say thank you so much to anyone that has gotten Draw Your Journal. I've been seeing all the numbers of people buying it, and I can't believe it. I love seeing your work. These look so cute. Moving on to the next page, it says Draw Your Heart. So this one is a little bit more vague, admittedly, so you could really interpret this page however you want to interpret it. You could interpret it as maybe your favorite charity where you show your heart, or something you really love, or maybe you could draw an actual human heart. Well, that would be actually crazy. I should have done that. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, anyway, as you can see, I decided to go with a more cartoon-like heart. I personally love using lots of colors in my drawings, and I thought since this page is show your heart or draw your heart, then I could show what I truly love to do in art. And that is to draw things that are really colorful, really cutesy, and fun. I wanted this heart to be small in the center and then get bigger as it went out. And I achieved that in two ways. The first way is pretty obvious. You just draw a really small heart and you outline the heart until it gradually becomes so big that it takes up the whole page. The second way is a little more subtle, but as I drew these lines, each line gradually increased in thickness. So by the time I reached the last line of this heart, I think it was over an inch big. Now, I will say, if you are around my age, you're probably thinking of something very specific. I also, I'm sure everyone did, loved the Powerpuff Girls growing up. If you are a youngin', these are the Powerpuff Girls, and in the end screen to their cartoon, they had this heart that would look like it was getting bigger at you when you were looking at it. And really, I could have picked a lot of things for this heart. I was thinking of doing a drippy heart. I was thinking of doing heart patterns. But ultimately, I decided to interpret this prompt as when I draw my heart, I'm showing what I truly love to create in art. And I also kind of just had to go with my gut, you know? I love the Powerpuff Girls, and when I think of hearts, I really do think of that end screen a lot, and I really wanted that to be in my diary. When I was done, I took out my matte Mod Podge, hard to open, oh my gosh. I protected the other pages in the book, and then started painting my Mod Podge on top of the page just to seal everything in. With colored pencils, things tend to smear over time, and you really want to seal it in. And here is what the final page turned out looking like. I know that this page is quite simple, but sometimes it's just fun to create something that's simple and colorful, and I also really like that it kind of looks like a tunnel of hearts. On to the next page. Draw your number. Dedicate this page to your favorite number. Okay, so there are actually a lot of ways you could interpret this page. For me, I decided to draw my favorite number, which is the number 11. I drew it twice. And then I decided to turn the number into a cartoon drawing. So that way I could incorporate the number 11 into my drawing without explicitly drawing the number 11. And there's nothing wrong if you wanted to dedicate the page to the number 11 and just draw a bunch of 11s everywhere in fun ways. You could totally do that. Or if your favorite number was 3, for example, you could turn the number 3 into a butterfly. I've seen the number 5 online turned into a duck. But my point is that you could do this prompt however you want to do it. I just decided to turn mine into weird bunny cartoons. On the left, we have our male workout bunny. He's lifting weights, very nicely winking at the female workout bunny, who is riding a bicycle. They both have sweatbands around their head, and that's because I'm incorporating the bottom part of the 11. The sweatband around their heads does imply that these bunnies are from the 80s. Perhaps they are 80s workout bunnies. Weird concept. It honestly feels like one of those drawings out of those random generators where it's like you get 3 things. You get like an activity, you get an animal, and you get like a number or something, and then you have to just incorporate all of them into a drawing. That's what this feels like. After coloring the bunnies in, I took out my white gel pen and added some sparkles to their eyes. I also added a bunch of blue, pink, and brown stars and polka dots to the background. I may have gotten a bit carried away with the stars and the dots, but I guess I like it. Last but not least, I added some matte Mod Podge to the page to seal everything in. And here is what the final page turned out looking like. I think it was kind of fun that I was able to incorporate the number 11 into the cartoon without explicitly drawing the number 11. Overall, I really like this one, and I think it would make a really cute squishy. I'll try to keep my eye out for how I can do that, maybe. If you would like to preview Draw Your Journal, all you have to do is go to bellamena.com, go to the newsletter section, enter your email into that little box, and I will automatically send you 5 extra pages that are not included in the book, and you can kind of preview what it's like to own it. We're going to do Draw Your Darkness. Spooky. So this page is a little bit vague and mysterious, and I kind of did it like this on purpose because there are so many ways you could interpret the concept of your own personal darkness. It could be something that you deal with or struggle with. It could be something that you are afraid of. Or it could literally be just like what your favorite type of darkness is. Maybe you like looking at the night sky of stars in the dark. Maybe you like glow in the dark freeze dance.
No.
When I wrote this prompt in particular, I was thinking of these jelly pens. When I was little, I used to collect these pens called Milky Way pens, and they're very similar to these gel pens. Similar, but also very different. If my memory serves me right, my Milky Way pens I used to collect as a kid were much better quality than these horrible Dollar Tree gel pens that turn out very scratchy. This will not work for me. I'm taking out the Poscas. I felt like if I was gonna color this whole page with those pens, it was just gonna turn out really gross and uneven, so I had to use the Posca paint pens, unfortunately. Oops, we have a leakage though. That's one of the problems with Posca paint pens. They just randomly explode on you. Isn't that fun? At this point, you're probably wondering what I decided to draw for my darkness. I am afraid of butterflies. I don't know if you guys know that. I've talked about it multiple times in different videos, but if you're new here, hi, my name is Marissa, and I am absolutely terrified of butterflies. People often get confused about this because I have painted some butterflies, I've drawn a lot of butterflies, and they get confused. They're like, why are you drawing something that you're afraid of? And the answer is, I'm not afraid of the cartoon kind of butterflies. I think they're even kind of cute when they're in cartoon form. But a butterfly in person is absolutely terrifying for several reasons. Number one being their wings are disgusting. Every time I see a butterfly and its disgusting wings, I automatically think, oh my gosh, that would be so awful if it flew into my mouth. And that's an irrational fear that will probably never happen. I also don't like how spastic they are. They just kind of fly and flutter around in random places. You never quite know where they're gonna go, and they might just land on your head, which is also absolutely horrifying. And not to be dramatic, but who are we kidding? Look at me. The thought of a butterfly flying spastically around me and me potentially swatting at it and hitting its disgusting wings is my dark place. That is truly darkness. So that is why I have chosen to draw a butterfly that's glowing in the dark. This is what the final page turned out looking like, and I like it a lot. I have to say, I love the splattered paint look we have going on here. Before we move on to the next page, I just wanted to say thank you so much to anyone that has purchased Draw Your Journal. You guys have been sending me pictures of what you've done and posting it on the internet, and I just have to say, it is my absolute favorite thing ever to see what you guys do with the pages. Also, thank you so much for the positive Amazon reviews. I've been reading those as well, and those are just so nice. Thank you. Okay, up next, we're doing a page that says, Draw Your Season. So this one is also up for your interpretation. You could kind of interpret it as what season best fits your personality. You could do it as what is your favorite season, or in my case, you could do it as what is your personal seasonal color palette. Let me explain. Using the undertones in your skin, you can determine which colors look amazing on you Wow, that is definitely your color. And which colors look absolutely horrible on you and you cannot wear? That is so not your color. In an effort to make my outfits really pop, I've been trying to discover what my seasonal color palette is. It's not the fall. No. The fall color palette is actually my worst colors, but the summer color palette, those are my colors. So in this page, I have decided to make a documentation of what my colors are. I will now make a brief case as to why I believe that I am a summer. I am not being too harsh on myself, I'm just being honest, and there will be some humble brags in here about the colors that look amazing on me. Believe it or not, my journey into seasonal color palette discovery begins with pale yellow. I have been told all of my life that pale yellow is impossible to pull off, that no one can wear pale yellow. And then I wore a pale yellow shirt, and I said, you know what? I think I can actually pull this off. I don't know why, because I'm very pale, but somehow I think this looks okay on me. Maybe I'm a summer? The next step in my journey was purple. I only really look good in cool toned purples, and very specifically, the purple that is in the summer color palette. Exhibit A, Exhibit B. And here's some more evidence. Light blue, light pink, hot pink, black, and cherry red. But I was still not convinced that I was indeed a summer color palette until I figured out this. Apparently, if you are a summer, your worst colors will be the fall color palette. I'm gonna show you some very convincing evidence. Please close your eyes. The burnt orange, the brick red, the horrible green color, I look absolutely sick. Especially when compared to some of the summer colors I look good in. Now, my last piece of evidence, and then I'll stop talking about this, is green. We haven't talked about green yet, and that is because I was confused about green for a very long time. Now, this one threw me for a loop. I don't look good in like that dark olive poop green. I definitely look good in lime green, which is not in the summer color palette. It's actually in the spring color palette. And it really confused me because I don't really look good in some of the spring colors. But then I got to reading and realized that you can actually cross over into certain color palettes, and I believe that is what lime green is for me. Maybe I just have a little bit of a crossover into the spring. But in general, I do believe that I am a summer color palette, and I have to say, figuring this out has been life-altering slightly. I have been wearing clothes that I feel look better on me in general, and been getting rid of the colors that I don't look good in. So it's been really fun, and I just wanted to make a page about it to document this. This is what the final page turned out looking like. I decided to make the color palettes look like they're makeup palettes. On the left, we have my best colors, and on the top right, we have the fall color palette, which are my worst colors. To clarify, you very well may be a fall color palette. There's probably like a 1 in 4 chance, so nothing against you guys. It's just not for me. Those colors just don't look good on me. Anyway, let's move on to the next page. This page is kind of self-explanatory. It's for your wishes. So if you have a wish, you draw about it here. Basically, like if you wish for a puppy, draw a puppy. If you wish that you get a good grade on a test, draw an A+ on the page. I don't know. But for me, I had a very specific vision for my wish. It is a very strange concept. Just gonna give everyone a warning about that. I had this idea that what if we had a dandelion, except it's very fluffy, a very fluffy rainbow dandelion, and inside is actually a hedgehog. I'm sorry, did you just say a hedgehog? Yes, this is intended to be a very floofy rainbow hedgehog that's pretending to be a dandelion. He's among the dandelions. If this seems conceptually very random, it's because it is. When I looked at the page, I saw the dandelions and I immediately thought of a hedgehog. It also didn't help that I was wearing pajamas that had hedgehogs all over them when I made this page. I am so sorry. Anyway, so the vision is clear. It's very random, but yes, this is a rainbow floofy hedgehog that is pretending to be a dandelion. clearly. Speaking of hedgehogs, has anyone met one in person? I have. I met a hedgehog one time in college, in person. One of my friends had it secretly in their apartment, and I went in and I held this little hedgehog, and it was very cute. The guy that owned the hedgehog was my friend, but he was like more loosely an acquaintance that I knew from class, and when I went in and held his hedgehog in a very cute little blanket, I started like lightly tearing up. I wasn't like crying or anything, not hysterically crying or anything, but this hedgehog was just so adorable that I started tearing up. And I think he thought I was weird from then on. Then again, a hedgehog did make me cry, so I probably am. Anyway, I am not going to tell you what my wish is. The wish is behind the little door, but I'm a little superstitious, and you know what? If you tell someone what your wish is, it won't come true. Okay? And I would encourage you people to do the same. Don't tell people your wishes or it won't come true. Only God gets to know the wish. Draw your hello. I never really did this page, and I feel like it's one of those pages you should probably do when you first start the journal. Of course, you can like do this in any order, but I'm kind of envisioning this page as almost a Dear Diary, except in picture form. I've actually seen a lot of you guys filling out this page and using it to kind of document all the ways that you know how to say hello. For example, if you speak Italian, you might write ciao. If you speak Spanish, you might write hola. I only know how to speak English. I did take Spanish in school from like kindergarten through 12th grade, and I used to know a decent amount, but I kind of forgot a lot of it, and I only really speak English. So instead of just writing hi or hello, I decided to think of the non-verbal ways in which I personally say hello. I noticed about myself that when I say hi to people, I usually go, hey, and I'll wave hello at the same time.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Shocking, right? It's obviously extremely common to wave hello when you say hi. I'm not breaking new ground here. But I do feel like there are very specific scenarios where people will physically wave hello. And the most common one is when you're at like a distance, when someone's kind of far away and you'll go, hey, and wave. However, if someone is right next to you and they're already within speaking distance, most people will not physically wave hello. That would be slightly awkward. What I've noticed about myself is that I wave hello regardless of the distance of the person. Like, they could be like very far away and approaching me, and I'll wave hello and be like, hey, come here. Or if they're like 2 feet in front of me and I just say, hey, how are you? I'll still wave hello. And I don't say this to sound different or weird. Like, I don't really care how common it is. Maybe you do this too. Maybe you don't do this ever, and I am really weird. I don't really know. All I know is that I really wanted this page to accurately document how I say hello. So if you were to meet me in person, I genuinely would probably wave hello regardless of how far or close you were. When I'm doing my voiceovers, like I'm speaking to no one but a microphone right now, and I'm waving my hands around a lot, even when I say bye in the voiceovers, I have found I physically cannot say bye without waving at the same time to my microphone. So for that reason, I felt like the non-verbal cues on this page was very important for me personally. Most of you probably also wave hello. Like, I'm not claiming that as a unique thing about me. Obviously, waving is very common. But who says we can't appreciate things that are popular? Enthusiastically waving hello to people that you know or don't know is a popular thing. I like it. That's why it's popular, probably. I mean, but who knows? Maybe you're the exact opposite of me. Maybe you're not a big fan of nonverbal cues. Maybe you don't like waving hello. Maybe you're more shy. Maybe you say hello in a different way altogether. However you choose to say hello is totally awesome, and that is specifically why I made the Draw Your Hello page. I just think it's really interesting when you meet a new person and how they first say hello. It's just an interesting way to see their personality. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on to the next page. Draw your animal. Draw Your Journal is intended to be a diary, so every prompt should be filled out from the perspective of it being something that's personal to you. That being said, the prompt, draw your animal, can be interpreted in so many different ways. Be creative, people. You could do your favorite animal. You could do your favorite stuffed animal. You could do your favorite mascot, like an animal for a sports team. You could do even your actual animal that you own, like the furry friend that's walking around your home. I decided to interpret it that way. There's a popular terminology going around where people like to refer to their favorite person as their person, like their husband is their person. I interpreted this page as my animal, my dog, Brownie. I mean, not everyone has an animal, furry friend walking around their home, but I do. And his name is Brownie. He's a dog, and I love him. I just want to take a brief moment for us to reflect on the concept of pets. Think about this. We take a random, furry animal, a literal animal, and we take it into our house, and they're just like walking around, just being an animal, furry. They're like, their whole body is fur. And we just let them live inside our house. They're just walking around like they're part of the fam. And if you really start to think about it, you're like, why are we doing this, guys? Like, my dog is like a wolf. We're just letting like a tiny wolf into our home. Isn't that kind of crazy? No? Just me? So for the background, I decided to paint it a pink color. I felt like this was like it's like a purple pink, actually. It's like a magenta. A light magenta. That's what this is. A very pale pastel magenta. My color pencil drawings take a lot of time and effort. There's a lot of shading that goes into it. I spend like hours drawing these things, and by the time I'm done, I really don't have a lot of time left over to do the background in colored pencils. So I have been really enjoying taking some paint and just painting the background a solid color. It really gives it this pop of brightness that the page requires. For this background, I was feeling like it needed even more pizzazz. Just a little extra something something. I felt like Brownie's pose in this had a lot of movement to it, and I wanted the background to kind of reflect the nature of a puppy. I drew Brownie as a puppy, if that's not obvious. He is 15 years old right now, but when he was a puppy, he was very active and he would move around a lot, like puppies do. Right now, he's old, so he just, like, sleeps and has arthritis. But when he was a puppy, he would move around and have a lot of fun, and I wanted that to be documented in this page to really capture the true essence of Brownie. I think it's also important to note that Brownie is part poodle, and he has a very snarky energy to him. He's been described sometimes as having a cat-like energy, or being a cat trapped in a dog's body. My only goal for this page was to really capture who Brownie is as a dog. He has a very specific personality that I haven't seen in other dogs. Brownie's attitude is happy at times, but he also has this cat-like, snarky, sassy thing going on that I think is kind of related to him being a poodle. So I'm very happy with the pose that I put Brownie in, because I feel like it gives off a happy dog vibe, but it also has a little bit of a sassy walk to him. He has a little bit of a snarkiness to it, and that's just so Brownie. Up next, we have the page that says, draw your time capsule. Draw something that represents this moment in time. So for this page, you could interpret it in a bunch of different ways. You could try to make a time capsule of all the things that you like at this moment in time. You could do a time capsule of things that are popular right now, not necessarily things you like, but things that are culturally popular. Or you could do something that, in my instance, documents my progress on YouTube. So for me, I decided to create a time capsule of how many subscribers I have right now. And I know that this page is kind of specific to me being on YouTube, but that's okay because it's my journal. I've seen a lot of people on the internet drawing these giant number balloons in colored pencil form, and I'm always so impressed by those drawings. I always look at the balloons and go, wow, that really looks like one of those big, shiny number balloons. And I've always wanted to be able to draw that. So I looked up a tutorial online. I will link it below. It only uses the numbers 2022, so I really only was able to follow the tutorial for the number 2, and after that I kind of had to imagine what the balloons might look like. But I found it really helpful to watch the tutorial for the number 2 and kind of figure out how to shade things to make them look shiny. I am so happy with the way these balloons came out, considering it was my first time trying to draw shiny balloons using only colored pencils. I know that these aren't the most perfect balloons. I know they're not the most realistic looking balloons, but I think in general, I did a pretty much okay job. I'm pretty happy with it. If you guys have been following me since I started posting prompt journal videos on YouTube, you will know that I'm actually relatively new to using colored pencils. When I first started my Create This Book series, I think that was the first time I started using colored pencils in the prompt journals. I also have used it in my Wreck This journal, and I've also now been using colored pencils in my Draw Your Journal. It's been around a year and a half, maybe 2 years of me using Prismacolor colored pencils. And I feel like this page is actually kind of documenting and creating a time capsule of my colored pencil skills and abilities at this moment in time. And I think it'll be interesting to kind of look back in a year or 2 years or maybe even 3 years and see what my colored pencil skills are like compared to now. Maybe I'll have improved, hopefully, God willing. To finish up this page, I took out my matte decoupage and sealed in the colored pencils. I also wrote March 15th, 2022 to document this moment in time. And here is what the final page turned out looking like. I'm really happy with the colored pencil balloons, and I'm specifically obsessed with the bunnies that are holding up these balloons and looking terrified. They're just floating away into the sky, terrified. Which bunny represents your personality most? I'm the pink one. Draw your dream vacation. The first step for this page is, of course, to sketch it all out. And while I'm sketching my dream vacation, I'm really thinking and contemplating, what is my dream vacation? Where would I want to travel? What would I want to do? And once I had totally planned my dream vacation, I erased it and took out this brand new pack of Faber-Castell colored pencils. I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to try these colored pencils because when I collabed with Mariah, she actually gave this to me as a gift, which was very kind. I had never tried Faber-Castell, and she knew that because we had talked about it, but I wanted things to be chronological on my channel, so I waited to try it out. In the past, I have only really ever used Prismacolor and Crayola colored pencils, so this is my first time using Faber-Castell colored pencils. I will be attempting to do this whole drawing with these new colored pencils that I have never used before. So as usual, I'm asking everyone to be nice to me because I don't know what I'm doing. Well, that's not always true. I kind of know what I'm doing, but I also kind of don't. So anyway, my dream vacation. I have been waiting and looking forward to doing this page in particular since I wrote this book, just because I love the concept of vacation. I mean, who are we kidding? Who doesn't love the concept of vacation? I don't get to do it that often, but hey, a girl can dream. I mean, that's specifically what this page is for, a dream vacation. And I have a very specific personal idea of what my dream vacation would be. Your personal dream vacation may be very different from mine. Please do not judge my dream vacation. It's
not that fancy.
I don't particularly want a very fancy dream vacation. What I want out of vacation is a few things. Number one, it has to be warm. The weather should be somewhat tropical. I love Florida. So let's just say it's Florida. It doesn't necessarily have to be Florida, but somewhere that is tropical-ish. Number two, I want it to be in a controlled environment. And what I mean by that is I want it to be at a resort. If you know me, you know that I am very risk averse. I don't like doing things that are
Adventurous.
I am not athletic in any way. I don't want to hike. I don't want to ski. I don't want to adventure around, if that's a verb now. And I know this might be a controversial kind of opinion. Some people just want to go to like a place and like explore. I'm really not an explorer. Dora the Explorer, that ain't me. I don't want to learn on my vacation. I know I'm saying a lot of things here, but we're talking about my personal vacation. I want to be in a resort and do nothing. I want it to be warm. I want to be by the pool. And I want to do absolutely nothing. I want to drink a strawberry daiquiri, eat a nice grilled cheese and some fries, and do, well, I said nothing, but really what I mean is I don't want to have to plan anything. So that brings us to number 3. There must be a lot of pre-planned activities that the resort team fully coordinates. Listen, guys, 6th grade, I will never forget it. I went to a resort. They had freeze dance. They had hula hoop contests. They had pool movie nights. They had tie-dye, sand art, friendship bracelets. Anything you could think of, they had it. All pre-planned, all scheduled at different times. You signed up in the morning. It was the most exciting week of my life. So that's really it. Warm, controlled environment, planned activities. I haven't mentioned something very critical. Some of you might be thinking, well, you said you wanted to be in a tropical area. Do you want to be on the beach? No. And the reason is simple. It's not something that's new or different for me. I live by a beach and it's not something I require in my dream vacation. So my dream vacation is quite basic. It's not very extravagant. It's basically just wanting to go to a resort with a pool and some activities. I realize there are much more grand vacation concepts, but this is just what I would want to do. I'm really happy with the way this page turned out. I love the water, I love the schedule of events, and I most importantly love the sassy cat. That is obviously me on vacation, dramatically soaking in the sun. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next page, but first we have an important message. If you would like to preview Draw Your Journal, all you have to do is go to bellamena.com. Go to the newsletter tab and enter your email. I will email you 5 extra pages that are not included in the book, and you'll get to like preview what it's like to own it. Okay, now we're moving on to the next page. Draw your fun fact. Draw something about you that most people don't know. I already told you a lot of things about me, pretty much everything that I can think of, except this. I would personally qualify this as a fun fact about myself, but you guys can be the judge if it's fun. It may not be fun, it might just be a regular fact. When I was growing up, I was randomly very good at ice skating. Maybe I just had very good balance. Maybe it was because I liked to rollerblade. I don't know, but I was very good at ice skating with no lessons whatsoever. I got invited to several ice skating birthday parties where you skate around, and I don't know what it was, but as a kid, I could go forwards, I could go backwards, I could spin around. I don't really remember because I was a kid, but I guess I came across coordinated, especially considering that I had no lessons whatsoever and only really skated at birthday parties. But I guess at the time, I must have been better than all these little kids on the ice skating free skate because the coach came up to me and my mom. This was like a random coach there and tried to get me to be on the travel team. I didn't even have to try out. He was like, yes, she's on the team. Just come to practice. Don't worry about it. I never actually joined that team. All I'm trying to say is that I liked to skate as a kid. It was like one of my favorite things when people had birthday parties at a skating rink. That was like the best thing ever. In college, I joined the club figure skating team. And we also had a hockey team. So we would come out before the hockey team and throw t-shirts and stuff at the crowd and do like a little dance. Dancing on ice is very difficult, and I actually only did it once or twice because I said, this is too embarrassing. I literally can't do this. I can only skate forwards, backwards, and spin around. I cannot do a dance routine. So that is where my skill level is at, if you're wondering. I'm not a figure skater. But I did enjoy being on the figure skating club team, skating around, throwing t-shirts, and letting people into the hockey games. And this brings us to the crux of my fun fact. My fun fact is that I really enjoy attending hockey games. Like I said, I went to a college that had a hockey team, and we actually had a hockey rink, ice skating rink on campus, and a team that played there. And on the weekends, we would go to the hockey games. And since then, I really love going to NHL games with my fiance, William. We don't go that often. I think we've went like 3 or 4 times. But we actually recently went to a hockey game. The New Jersey Devils in New Jersey. God knows why, but they are William's favorite hockey team. They're absolutely terrible, but that means that their ticket prices are so cheap, it's ridiculous. Their season is over now because they're terrible and they lost, but we went like 2 weeks ago and it was a lot of fun. Although I really enjoy attending hockey games, I don't actually know what's going on or follow the teams or players in any way. So I wanted to depict that on the page. So on the left, we have a hockey player, or William. He used to play hockey and he knows what's going on and he gets very aggressive and into it like, yes, this is great. And on the right is me, just like, I don't know what's really happening, but I'm having a good time. I really enjoy watching it. I like it, but I don't necessarily know what's happening. I'm just happy to be here. Also, can I have some cotton candy? That is my fun fact. I like to ice skate. I love to go to hockey games, but I don't necessarily know what is actually happening. Do you guys think that that is a fun fact or just a regular fact? I feel like it was fun. All right, let's move on to the next page. Up next, we're doing the page that says, Draw Your Dream. For this page, you could really do a lot of different things. Well, 2 things. You could either do your dream, as in like your vision for your life or like something that you really want to achieve, or you could do your literal dream, like a dream journal almost. You go to sleep, you have a nice dream, you wake up, and then you draw it. I have chosen to go the route of drawing an actual dream that I had while I was sleeping. Well, it's actually a nightmare, and it is definitely a reoccurring dream that I've had for years now. I've talked about my fear of butterflies on this channel quite a bit, but I've never mentioned to you guys my fear of elevators. I have so much to say. Okay. Let's take it back. I was never really that scared of elevators growing up. I didn't really like them, to be honest with you. I've never been like a big fan of elevators. But then again, who is? Who's a fan of elevators? No one. I think I was slightly scared of them, but I wasn't terrified of them. Like I would go in them and I'd be like, I don't like this, but no big deal. Then I went to college. Wow, this is the second time this episode I've had to tell a story from college, but here we are. In college, I lived on the 10th floor of a dorm and the 12th floor of a dorm. It was absolutely horrifying. Let me explain. While I was living in these dorms, the elevators would often break down. They were very old and they had to travel a very long distance, sometimes all the way up to the 24th floor. These elevators were known for breaking down regularly, I mean like every other day, and I had to use them because I lived so high up and could not walk up that many flights of stairs. One time I was in the elevator on the 10th floor and it dropped a little bit. I think it fell half a floor or a full floor. That's traumatizing. Several times in both dorms, 10th and 12th floor, the elevator shaft would just be open with no elevator in it, and you could just look down 10, 12 stories. Another time, I was living on the 10th floor. My friends got brought up to the 10th floor in the elevator, but the elevator opened halfway up. You could only see their heads, and their feet were still, like, halfway below the floor. And that is why I am absolutely traumatized about elevators. I have reoccurring nightmares where I'm like falling down elevator shafts or stuck in elevators, or elevators are like falling 10 feet. It's a fun time. I hope you guys weren't too scared by this page, but yeah, that is my reoccurring dream. And I have been keeping track very messily in my index of the pages that I have completed. It is quite a mess. Do something about it. Draw your dessert. That's pretty self-explanatory, but in case you don't get it, your dessert can be anything that you like to eat for dessert. If you have your own copy of Draw Your Journal, there are a couple of ways you could go with this page. You could draw your favorite dessert to eat. What tastes the best to you? Maybe it's not necessarily your favorite to eat, but maybe it's something you're known for making. Maybe a family recipe or something. A dessert that reminds you of your grandma, perhaps. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. In my case, I have a lot of favorite desserts, but I really love a certain flavor that is often present in a lot of desserts, and I have a character idea that goes along with it. Something that I really like is when things have a cinnamon sugar type of taste to it. Tastes like sugar. For example, cinnamon toast waffles. I loved cinnamon toast waffles so much that my mom used to pack me them in tiny squares in my lunchbox, and I would eat them cold. Ugh. My love for cinnamon toast waffles persisted into high school. I would walk onto the bus every day with like a stack of 4 cinnamon toast waffles. This is not a cinnamon toast waffle that I'm drawing here. I think we can all see that. These are cinnamon buns. The reason I'm telling you this story is because I love cinnamon sugar. Another component to this is I recently painted CDs, and I painted a monkey. And I got a lot of comments about the swirls in the monkey's ears, saying they kind of looked like the swirls on cinnamon buns. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to draw that. This is perfect. I love any dessert with cinnamon sugar. I like monkeys, and my monkey can have cinnamon bun ears. Because I've never seen that. I googled this, and I have not seen a monkey with cinnamon bun ears. It could be because it's crazy and doesn't make any sense. Probably. But I really do like it when I'm able to come up with new animal food combinations that I haven't seen before. It just gives me a nice thrill. I'm like, yes, a cinnamon bun monkey, of course. No one's seen that before. For this page, I was focusing on only using my Prismacolor Premier colored pencils. If you've been following me since the start of my journey with prompt journals on YouTube, you know that I started by posting videos about Create This Book and Wreck This Journal, and I had basically never really used a colored pencil that was not Crayola colored pencils. And this is certainly not a knock at Crayola colored pencils. I used them all of my whole life growing up, and I think they're a great art utensil. However, when I started posting on YouTube, I started by using Prismacolor colored pencils, which are a little bit easier to blend, but also very different. I definitely have a lot more to learn about them, but maybe I'm finally getting the hang of it. Maybe. For this cinnamon bun monkey's face, I added pink and orange to the eyes. I don't know if I regret that. It might have been a weird eye color choice. And I also added white highlights to the face. For the background, I'm taking out this very light pink color, and I'm dipping into it with my paintbrush. I felt like the background needed a color, so I went with light pink. I kind of regret it. I feel like blue may have been a better choice, but it's like fine, but also maybe a weird background choice. I don't know. Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? I don't know. It matches the monkey's blush. Anyway, I added some sparkles to the pink background. This is a black Posca paint pen, and I'm using that to go over the prompt for this page. It kind of got covered by the colored pencils, and I wanted to remember that it said, draw your dessert. And last but not least, the most important step, we have a matte decoupage finish, and I am going to be painting that over the whole page, just so everything is sealed in and doesn't get ruined over time. And here we have the final cinnamon bun monkey page, featuring my favorite type of dessert, anything with cinnamon sugar, especially a cinnamon bun. And the thinking about you monkey, except this time he's thinking about cinnamon buns because he is a cinnamon bun monkey, a cinnamon bunky, cinnamonkey. Oh, I like that. Overall, I'm very happy with the result for our cinnamonkey. Everyone must refer to it as a cinnamonkey from now on. That is mandatory requirement if you're watching this video. Someone get this cinnamonkey a cinnamon bun stat. Okay, before we move on to the next page, I wanted to say thank you so much to anyone who has purchased Draw Your Journal, and especially thank you to anyone that has posted your art online. I search the hashtag Draw Your Journal all the time, and I'm always looking for your YouTube videos on it. These are all so good, and I cannot express to you how happy it makes me to see what you guys come up with. Okay, let's move on to the next page, which is Draw Your 3-Color Challenge. Draw something using only 3 colors. Black and white are shades, they are not colors, therefore I will not be selecting them at random, but I will be using them. I did choose these colors at random, and you can tell because the choices are absolutely awful. Green, green, and tan, and then black and white. I would have never chosen these colors of my own volition. You can really tell my eyes were closed. Now, since this is your journal, if you have this book, you don't have to do the 3-color challenge page the way I just did it. For my page, I decided to actually follow the 3-color challenge, quote-unquote, rules. But if you wanted to document or memorialize a 3-color challenge you've done in the past, you could have done that. For example, I could have drawn maybe one of my squishies that I did in a 3-color challenge a while ago. I also could have done maybe my own version of the 3-color challenge where I drew something using only my 3 favorite colors. I decided not to do that. To make it personal to me, I chose my 3 colors at random, which were green, green, and beige. And then I said, what can I do that would make this personal to me? Something I always associate with myself and my doodles are these characters that I draw. I used to draw them when I was in elementary school, and I feel like every time I go back to them, it kind of gets my creativity flowing. I guess some people call it art block. If you have an art block and you just go to a doodle that you typically draw, I feel like that always gets my creativity flowing. So since I didn't really have a real idea here, I thought it would be nice to lean into something that I just like to draw. But I thought it was fun and interesting because typically I draw these little characters in all different colors with all different types of spiky things popping out of their head. It's kind of a combination between Kirby and Pikmin. Kirby in the sense that it's got the black feet and the arms that stick out like that, but Pikmin in the sense that it has plants growing out of their head. Sometimes it's really fun to go back to a character that you've drawn a bunch of times in the past, but put a new spin on it. Using only dark green, light green, and beige was so limiting for these characters that I feel like I came up with actually new versions of them. And this is why I love prompt journals, because sometimes when you limit what you're supposed to draw, it actually makes you a little bit more creative than you expected. Because instead of thinking of everything in the whole entire world and getting overwhelmed by anything you could draw, now you're so limited to a very specific set of colors or a set of constraints that you can be creative within those constraints. For example, I have drawn these characters hundreds of times, and I have never drawn this tree leaf broccoli one. I've never drawn the dandelion one, ever, and he's so cute. I have drawn the grass one. He's one of my faves, and I always draw him. To add some more details, I added little dots all over the grass for some shading, as well as some white dots for some highlights. And then I also added dots to the background. I felt like it needed some color back there, but I also didn't have really any other colors to color the sky with. I signed my signature in the grass, and here we have the final result for this 3-color challenge, which uses beige, dark green, and light green. I also allowed myself to use white and black because white and black are shades and not colors. Considering this is a 3-color challenge and I had to use very limited amounts of colors, I am very happy with this page. I think the characters are really cute, I love their expressions, and I just like the setup of the scene. At this point, we've completed quite a few pages. I decided to do the Draw Your Red Carpet look page. I've already sketched something out. It's actually me in my wedding dress. I don't currently have my wedding photos back yet. We are supposed to be getting them soon. But I do have some videos that were taken on an iPhone for me while my photos were being taken. I used them as inspo for this drawing. To color this page, I decided to finally take out my alcohol markers again. My Cali Art markers. That's not redundant. I haven't used these in a while, but I do love alcohol markers. Oh my gosh, I missed you. I forgot that the cap doesn't go on the back. I started off with the blue-gray color, and I wanted to make it look like there was a lot of movement. It's kind of like a ghost. We have some shadows that are moving behind me. That was a ghost noise. After that was done, I moved on to a light green color and added some shading to my wedding dress. I realized that most wedding dresses are white, and mine is no different. I had a white wedding dress. But I felt like it was kind of boring to color the wedding dress all white. So I decided to add shading in different colors, just to spice things up a bit. One thing I actually wish I had not done was added the black outline first. I feel like I could have colored the dress a little bit better had I not done the outline at all in the center of the dress. I added some more shading to the bottom and tops of the dress, and then I moved to my skin. I used an alcohol marker on this, and this is where I specifically feel like I messed up, because the black outline that I should not have added first started to mush and blend into my skin tone and kind of make it look darker than it was. In the end, I was able to fix everything with a colored pencil, and I feel like it does look like my actual skin tone now. These are my glow-in-the-dark sparkles. I used this in my glow-in-the-dark video, and for some reason I felt like, you know what, this is gonna look really cool on top of the dress. The sparkles themselves have a green undertone, and my dress that I colored also has some green in it, so I felt like it went really well together. My dress in person did not have any sparkles on it, but I feel like in my journal it adds to the look and makes it look more fun and dramatic. I really like the way this turned out. I was specifically waiting to do this page until I had my wedding dress and a photo example of it, because I feel like this was my most dramatic red carpet look that I've ever worn, and I'm happy we've memorialized it here. Okay, the next page that I'm doing is Draw Your Escape. Draw something that helps you get away and unwind. I decided to take out all the colors in the rainbow for this. I just feel like the cap should go on the back of the marker. I ask for so little. You can interpret this page however you want, but the way I'm interpreting it is this is an activity that I do to de-stress. It's something that when I'm feeling upset, if I do this activity, I end up feeling better afterwards. I think it's probably pretty obvious that I do love art. I find it like an escape and a de-stressor, but this page actually has two different meanings. The first one is an art style that I find very therapeutic. If I'm feeling stressed, I do feel like drawing in this style does help me unwind a bit. It's the sketchy, impressionistic style where everything is like a bunch of lines and nothing is really very clear, but at the end, when you look at it from a distance, it kind of looks a lot better. It's kind of fun to start a drawing and not know what you're gonna draw and just start like sketching things and have everything look kind of scribbly, and then at the end, you end up with a picture that looks totally different than anything you thought you were going to draw. I don't know what the exact word for that is, but I know it's very therapeutic for me, and I find it to be an escape. The second fold meaning for this page has to do with singing. In the basement, my husband and I have a rock band kit. I sing on the vocals and he drums, and we do that for like an hour or two about once or twice a week, and I'm telling you, every single time I do it, I feel so much better at the end. I just feel so happy. I love singing, and it's definitely an escape for me. I don't like singing in front of people, but I do like singing to myself. I am actually allergic to cats, probably. I mean, like, they're fine if they're in the house, but if I pet them and then touch my face or my eyes, it doesn't go well for me, so I think I might be allergic to them. I'm getting very off topic. My point is, I love cats, but I'm too excited to see them, and then they dislike me because I like them too much. Cats are very picky like that. Like, if you like them, they hate you. A heartbreaking scenario. Anyway, this page is completed. I really like the way it turned out. I feel like it's fun. It kind of gives off a very music kind of vibe and an escape vibe for me because everything is moving so much. I honestly quite enjoy how much I like Rock Band. Like, I find it funny that I go in my basement and play Rock Band still. It's just ridiculous, but I love it. Okay, before we move on to the next page, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to anyone and everyone who has been getting Draw Your Journal. Seeing you guys fill out these pages is literally my favorite thing ever. I'm not kidding. So thank you so much for getting the book. Let's move on to the next page, which is Draw Your Personality. You can go to the website 16personalities.com and take the quiz if you want to know what you are. If you don't know what the Myers-Briggs personality test is, I am obsessed with it. It gives you such a good breakdown of who you are as a person and how you think, and it's so helpful for understanding yourself as well as people around you. The test results gives you 4 different letters, and each of those letters represent your cognitive functions. Your cognitive functions describe how you think, how you take in information, and how you interact with the world. My favorite thing about Myers-Briggs personality types is just the basic understanding that not everyone thinks the same way I do. It's been really cool because it's given me a really big respect for other people and the way that they think. I'm speaking very abstractly. Let me go into specifics. So my 4 letters are INTJ. I'm introverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging. And the other options for this could have been ESFP, which is extroverted, sensing, feeling, and perceptive. There are a ton of different descriptions of the personality types online. Here are some INTJ traits that I found interesting. Number 1, able to absorb extremely complex theoretical material. Number 2, strategists who are logical, rational, and future-oriented. Number 3, strong insights and intuitions, can easily see the big picture. Number 4, extremely logical and values knowledge and efficiency. Number 5, very high standards for performance, which they apply to themselves most strongly. Number 6, reserved and detached from others, but values close friendships. Those traits kind of generally describe me, but the best way to think about how I think is through my cognitive stack. Your cognitive stack basically takes all 4 of your letters and prioritizes them from most important to you to least important to you. My number 1 most prioritized and most important way of thinking is my NI, which is my internal intuition. The way I've interpreted this is the biggest question I'll ask myself when I make a decision is, how will this impact me in the future? This is different than other personality types who might prioritize the past or the present when making a decision. My second most used cognitive function is my TE, which is my external thinking. This is something that people notice about me right off the bat. I talk a lot. Like, I'm always thinking out loud. I pretty much say everything I think, which honestly makes a lot of sense because I definitely got in trouble a lot as a kid for talking too much. My last 2 cognitive functions are more subconscious. They're my internal feelings and my external sensing. As an INTJ, it's a little bit harder for me to get in touch with how I'm feeling and how other people are feeling. SE is external sensing. Since this is in my last position, I tend to be the worst at this. I get really overwhelmed by external stimuli, especially if I'm in a new location. I'll actually go really quiet, even though I'm not a quiet person. I just get overwhelmed and tend to not take in all the information. For example, I went into a pizza place 3 different times, and it only occurred to me on my 3rd time that there was a giant staircase against the wall. I literally had never seen it, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a huge staircase here. And people were like, yeah, That's always been there, Marissa. I quite literally do not notice anything, and in extreme circumstances, it does make me go very quiet. Even with like friends' houses, it takes me a few visits to warm up to the place. Knowing my personality type and the people's around me has been so helpful. I've taken the test 4 or 5 times over the course of like 6 years, and I always get INTJ. If you know what your personality type is, leave a comment because I would love to know. Draw your birth month. Draw something noteworthy about the month you were born. The first thing I'm doing is switching to a blank piece of paper, and I'm sketching out something that you can barely see. I really gotta stop including my sketching process because I sketch it so lightly you can't see it, and then when you do, I erase it. It truly feels purposeless because we end with a blank piece of paper. What was the point? I don't know. Taking out my Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, which are divided into cups by color category. Some are kind of mixed up, but mostly. I chose these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colored pencils to start off with. The first color I'm using is the blue turquoise kind of color, and then I quickly switched to the royal purple color, and then I switched again to the lime green color. We're getting real crazy here, guys. So here's the thing, I love snowmen. I find them very cute. Literally anytime I see a home decor item that has a snowman on it, forget it, I'm done. However, to draw a white snowman, you really only use black, gray, and maybe a white. But I didn't want the snowman to just be white, like snow, because that is boring, and I don't really want to color in just black and white. Now, don't get me wrong, using black and white and grayscale have their time and place, but to me, at the time, that was quite a boring idea. I really wanted to use
Some colors.
So instead, I decided to make a snowman that's multicolored. Blue and purple and green. I chose those colors because those are kind of my favorite colors together. One of my favorite combos. The snowman concept kind of already gave it away that I was born in a winter month, but the Santa hat really specifies that I was definitely born in the month of December. December is such a commercialized month. I feel like there were so many things that I could have done, like anything. Christmas trees, anything wintry, anything New Year's Eve themed. I was born on December 30th, so like right next to New Year's Eve, and I was thinking, maybe I could do a New Year's Eve themed page, but wait, I already did that. I know, I'll do a snowman with a Santa hat. The obvious choice. That kind of meshes both ideas. You get the winter theme, and you've got the Christmas theme, you put them together, and you've got my birthday. I don't really plan these pages out ahead of time, and sometimes I look back at them and go, that's what you decided to draw that was noteworthy about the month of December? Why didn't you pick like a Christmas tree, Marissa? Or maybe like Santa in a sleigh with some reindeer, or like the ball dropping. I don't know. There's so many things that I could have done. It just confuses me sometimes. So I am coloring in some lights. These are winter/Christmas lights that are going to be strung together. These are just the bulbs at the moment, but I was trying my best to make them in the same color scheme that the snowman is. I guess the idea is that the lights are maybe reflecting off of our snowman, and that's why he's colored with those colors. Perhaps. Around the outside of each of the lights, I decided to make a glowing kind of effect because the light bulbs are turned on. I realize that this pale yellow color is kind of hard to see, but don't worry, I fixed that a little bit later. After that was done, I decided it was time to string our lights together. I used this dark brown color, and I later regretted it because I realized it was the same exact color as the snowman twig arms. So now it looks like the string lights are somehow part of the snowman, like he's growing these weird twig arms and they have lights on them. It's odd, and I'm sorry. The snowman is sitting in what is presumably a pile of melted snow. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I decided that this needed some black outlines, mainly because of the twig lights. I really was looking at those the whole time and being like, no, we can't have twig arm lights connected to this snowman. Let's outline everything in black and try to distinguish things. This is a snowman with twig arms, and these are the Christmas lights that are not made out of twigs in any way. After I had outlined everything in black, I decided that the background was a little boring being just white. So I took out a paint palette and my light purple, pastel purple color. I like this color and I felt like it matched really well with the purple colored pencil I had been using. I decided to paint this all over the background. You'll notice I have like a zigzag thing going on around the lights. I don't know why I did that. I'm looking at that and I think I thought it looked more cartoony. I kind of like it actually, now that I'm looking at it, but I feel like maybe it should have been an oval shape and not jagged lines, but no well. After I'd finished the outline, I glued this into the book, and I added my B. Bella signature, and also added a matte Mod Podge. Is it Mod Podge or Mod Podge? Someone corrected me so many times, and I feel like I just forgot because I've mixed it up. Okay, well, here is the final page. I actually really like it. For all my criticism I had throughout the process of creating it, I feel like at the end, when I look at it, I go, oh, that's such a cute little snowman, you know? I really like it for the month of December. I love the purple background. Let's move on to the next page. For this next page, I'm going to be drawing my sport. And to the right of this long line, we have a sports girl running. When I was in high school, I actually used to run cross country. And that was kind of like the main sport that I did. I struggled with cross country in my freshman year because it's very much a mental game where you have to keep running even when you're tired. And the speed at which you run, of course, matters, but the primary thing that was a struggle for me is actually like the mental endurance it takes to keep going. I have gone so far off topic, you're not even gonna believe it. Okay, I got these permanent markers a couple of weeks ago. They're very bright in color, and I've been excited to use them. Okay, so sports. The way I talked about cross country would make you think that I love sports and am very athletic. But that is not the case, I can assure you. I have always been moderately good at sports and slightly uncoordinated. I actually have become totally inactive. I do barely any physical activity on a daily basis, and it's probably unhealthy. But, I do really enjoy watching a very specific sport on TV recently. And this has been a long time coming. When I was in college, my roommate loved hockey. She loved the Devils hockey. And we had like stuff in our room with that, and I never paid any attention. I truly have always been like minimally invested in watching sports on TV. I'm just like, nah, not really for me. I don't really like the NHL. My husband also loves the Devils, and they're terrible. Well, they were terrible, that's the thing. They were terrible. For years, for like a decade, they were so bad. Anyone that is from New Jersey here, you know the Devils were horrible. They were so bad for 10 years. And that was primarily the time period where everyone around me liked them, and I was like, guys, these guys are bad. I can't do this. I don't want to watch. But this year, they have been so good. And now I feel like I'm a part of something, because I have been suffering, alongside mainly my husband. But there's a benefit here. I get a payoff, because I have watched and attended so many bad Devils games that now that they're winning, it feels like I'm winning, in a way. Kind of. They have become amazing. They're almost at the top of the league. I am now the #1 hockey fan. I don't know all the rules, but I do enjoy that the team is a young team. That's interesting. And I also enjoy when they occasionally get into fights. It's kind of funny, and there's some drama there. This has all been very unexpected for me. I actually talked about hockey last year in one of my Draw Your Journal videos. I drew 2 penguins in a hockey outfit, and I kind of talked about this same exact topic in a little bit of a different way. Believe me, this is the absolute last thing I ever thought that I would be emotionally invested in ever. I literally hated sports before this. I've colored in a polar bear that's in a hockey outfit, and she's got some stripes going behind her up until the point that she starts being drawn. I was kind of trying to echo the stripes that are on the bottom of the Draw Your Sports page. For whatever reason, stripes feel like sports to me. I guess that was what I was thinking when I originally made the page for the book, and that's what I did on this page as well. To finish up this page, I used my white gel pen just to give some glimmers to the eyes, the nose, and the tongue of this polar bear. I also decided to add some white hearts to the stripes of this page. I felt like it needed some glimmering sparkles. And here we have the final result of my Draw Your Sport page, which is about hockey, my new love. If you'd like to get yourself a copy of Draw Your Journal, it is available on Amazon. It's my book that I wrote and self-published, and it's intended to be a visual diary about your life.
Magic puffy pens.
I saw these on Instagram Reels, and I immediately had to buy them on Amazon because they look so cool. They come in 6 neon colors, ages 3 and up, which is perfect for me. And if you add heat, they make the ink puff up like popcorn. I'm sure most of you at this point are saying, what the heck does that mean? Let's get into it. We have this little sticker thing. Neon, vibrant colors are my absolute favorite, and these are so bright. I'm in love. The pens themselves, I discovered, are actually more like tubes of paint. They're a little squishy. We need instructions. Step 1 says we have to squeeze the pen to apply the ink. I think that's all we need to know. Let's start with the purple puffy pen. I removed the cap and discovered there is a wax seal on top of it, and when you take it off, it starts oozing this gooey substance. It's not really like paint, it's thicker. Or maybe stickier, more viscous, I don't know. It's different. Because I don't trust myself totally to put this directly in my Draw Your Journal yet, we are doing a test case. So my hairdryer does not blow this away, I'm taping it down with some washi tape, and then I'm checking if this has dried. It has not, on both sides, still wet. I'm attempting to use my hairdryer on this, and nothing is really happening. You'll notice I added a heart, and the heart is actually a lot thicker than the line. It's kind of hard to tell, but the heart has way more paint, and that actually started to puff up. The zigzag line did not puff up at all when I applied the heat, but the heart did. So my lesson here is that you really gotta make it thick for anything to happen. I'm taking out my Draw Your Journal and I'm flipping to the page that says Draw Your Clouds. Now, you could interpret this page any way you want. You could say the clouds are representative of your mood. Maybe you're a rain cloud, or maybe you're a colorful puffy cloud like me.
So fun.
Or you could even just draw your favorite type of cloud from science class. I'm a cumulus, because those are the fluffiest type and they look like they would be fun to lay in. Logically, I know you would fall through a cloud, but the Care Bears would beg to differ. The other thing you could do for this page is just come up with something in your life that you think is like a cloud that you like. For example, cotton candy, the Care Bears, the fluff in a stuffed animal, etc. I kept my concept to just a regular cumulus cloud because I really wanted to document the puffy pens themselves. The results are going to be puffy and clouds are puffy. Conceptually, everything is aligned. As I was hair drying this, you'll notice that I did put quite a thick amount of paint on this cloud. My experience with the test case really proved that you need a thick amount of paint for anything to really puff up. The paint needs to be dry before the puffying begins. And once it's dry, the heat from the hairdryer puffs up this weird, gooey, liquidy substance. I don't know. I'm not a scientist and I don't understand how this works. All I know is that things start getting puffy. Almost like foam. The foam result is so thick, it makes you feel like you could peel it off, but you can't. I wanted to see how much you could actually build up this foam and make it go even taller, so I decided to add even more puffy pen ink to the top of the cloud. We're attempting to make this cloud even puffier. After applying some heat, I discovered that yes, you can keep making this taller, but I wasn't going to do that because this is in my Draw Your Journal and I want to still be able to close the page. Instead, I've decided to add on a rainbow to this cloud, but not just any rainbow. This rainbow is special because it actually does a cool flipping motion. You'll see what I mean in a second, but first I had a decision to make. I could keep the colors from mixing together by only applying one color at a time and then applying heat and letting it dry. or I could allow the colors to mix together. I decided to opt for the blending mixing option because we haven't tried that yet, and I thought it would be fun with this paint in particular. It's so hard to explain the texture of this because it's not like paint. It's a little thicker than paint and more
Gelatin-like?
Oh, maybe that's what it reminds me of. It's actually like Jell-O. It kind of reminds me of like the gelatin-ness of Jell-O before you put it in the fridge.
To harden?
I don't know. Basically, it's more slimy than paint. But for some reason, when it even touches the other paint, it starts to mix kind of like paint mixes, but even more so, kind of like watercolors mix. The consistency of this stuff is perplexing and mildly concerning. It's very odd. But anyway, I'm getting off track. My point is, I'm creating a very blended rainbow here because I'm not allowing this stuff to puff up until the very end. And this is really cool, honestly. I'm looking at this and it looks so drippy. It reminds me of a Jawbreaker a little bit, just like the rainbow color of the inside of a Jawbreaker.
Very psychedelic, colorful.
Because at this point there is just like so much paint here, I had to take a while to actually dry this before anything started puffing up. As it starts to dry, underneath the first layer, there's like a bunch of goo stuck under the surface and it starts like moving around. Once everything is totally dry, that's when you'll start seeing this foam popcorn thing take effect. I thought mine wasn't working at first. I thought maybe I didn't have a hairdryer that got to a high enough heat. I even saw some people online saying they got better effects with heat guns. However, once I put my thing on high and just let it sit there, it actually puffs up really quickly. My theory is that this is all dependent on the temperature that the goo reaches. Once it hits that high temp, it all just will puff up right at once, but it takes a bit of patience to actually get it to the right temperature. But once you do, you have this fun, foamy crater thing. I feel like this is the type of thing that some people would think is absolutely disgusting, because I showed it to my husband and he was like, what the heck is this? This is so gross. But for me, I'm like, this is so cool. I don't know. It could go either way. At this point, I felt like I had done enough test cases and I really just wanted to have fun with it. So I decided to add a bunch of clouds to the background. The goal here was to place the clouds in a pattern that's pleasing to the eye. I also had several clouds around the page already, just as part of the prompt, and I covered those with some colors. The next thing I decided to do was add some polka dots to the background because I felt like it needed more colors. And this leads me to my one and only complaint about this tool. Aside from the obvious complaint that this might be disgusting to you, and it also doesn't create actually like beautiful artwork in my opinion, it just creates something that's fun. But those are the intentions of this, you know, we're trying to make something that's puffy, a little gross maybe to some people, but also kind of fun texturally. So that I can accept about this tool. The thing I don't like about it is that the pen is a squeezy pen. Ordinarily, I would be totally fine with a squeezy pen, but the pen is not easy to squeezy. It's actually, it's very difficult to squeeze, and my hand started cramping up. Granted, I do have to write with my right hand. I did break my wrist in 3rd grade and have terrible wrist pain since. We've been over it. But I had to take like so many breaks doing this page because my wrist kept cramping up. I was like, I cannot keep going. I felt like I was doing a workout. You know, those exercise things where you have to like keep squeezing your hand and like get your hand muscles more strong. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but I literally felt like I was doing that exercise. Anyway, a couple of other things that this reminded me of. Does anyone remember those candies with the dots that had like, they're like sugar candies, they're dots on a piece of paper, you peel them off.
And you eat them?
Obviously you eat them, it's candy, oh my gosh. The other thing this reminds me of is, would this be a good tool for people that are blind to write in Braille? I don't know, maybe it would, because it rises and then you have like these bumps. I have no idea if that would actually be feasible, but I thought it was a cool potential usage for these pens. I am so happy I got to try these Magic Puffy pens because they are just as fun as they looked on Instagram Reels. Apparently Instagram is a bottomless pit of unsearchable videos, so I cannot find the video that I originally watched when I saw these. But if you're interested in testing them out, I will link the one that I used in the description of this video. And here we have the final results of this page. I really enjoy it, actually. I feel like it does reflect my inner feelings about what a cloud is. To me, clouds are fun, they're fluffy, they're colorful, and maybe they're a little bit like cotton candy. Draw your comfort. Draw something that makes you feel cozy. For this page, I'm using a separate piece of paper, and I've actually already sketched something. I'm taking out my eraser and erasing all of the lines so that they're very light and you can't see them anymore. Where did they go? Mysterious. I'm taking out my alcohol markers. These are my Cali Art markers, a redundant name, but I do like these alcohol markers. They've gotten a decent amount of usage from me over the past few years. I've never actually used the fancy brand of alcohol markers, so I can't really compare for you guys, but I feel like these are fine. And they were only like $30, so definitely way cheaper. I'm starting off my coloring process by coloring anything that is brown in. We've got some chocolate-covered strawberries. This is the chocolate part of the chocolate-covered strawberries. And I've also got some chocolate drips dripping down the side of a milkshake. If you don't know what Draw Your Journal is, it's a prompt journal, but it's supposed to be more of a diary prompt journal. Each of the prompts are things about you, and as you draw in Draw Your Journal, you're basically drawing about your life. Similar to how you would write in a journal or a diary about your life, this is more of an artistic version of that. So for this page, when it said Draw Your Comfort, I thought about milkshakes. I love milkshakes, and I find them extremely comforting. Whenever I'm upset, I always say, I need a milkshake. And it doesn't even have to be a particular flavor. I genuinely love all milkshakes. I like chocolate milkshakes probably the best. Vanilla's good, strawberry's good, and we could probably get a weird one. I had a churro flavored milkshake the other day, and it was still delicious. Something I love in particular, and I find very comforting, is when there are those crazy milkshakes. Some have like Fruit Loops on the side, or Fruity Pebbles. Others have like marshmallows and churros, or cookies and Reese's. Whatever it is, there's like these insane milkshakes. I truly appreciate the creativity that goes into these kinds of milkshakes, and I've tried to incorporate a bunch of different things that I like and find comforting. Chocolate chip cookies, chocolate covered strawberries, I love marshmallows, I love hot fudge. There's a lot of chocolate items, actually, in this, now that I'm thinking about it. To our right, we have a bunny that's climbing a ladder, and she is kind of pushing over the milkshake. You'll notice this bunny does resemble a certain bunny that I sewed recently, Snowball, and I've also created Snowball's friend, Frosty. Frosty ran into some issues over here, and this is why I remembered why I stopped using the Cali Art markers. And it's not because they're not good, it's just because I had used them so much that they actually
Ran out of ink.
Everyone ignore what's happening to Frosty right now, because I'm going to fix it with some colored pencils. In these 3 cups hold my collection of Prismacolor Premier colored pencils. I particularly love using these in conjunction with alcohol markers. In poor little Frosty's case, we're just basically using the colored pencils to cover over all of that horrible blue. But in Snowball's case, I actually did a lot of shading with the colored pencils, and I was able to cover over the pink part on her paw. I was also able to fix her little bows, which were quite a mess from the alcohol markers. Part of the reason the alcohol markers were so messy was actually not its fault. I was coloring this on computer paper, which is really not the thing you're supposed to use for alcohol markers. There's a different kind of paper that makes it not bleed as much. Help! I just never purchase the materials that I'm supposed to purchase in order for things to work properly. I have no excuse, I'm so sorry. Typically with this, I would stop here after the colored pencils, but in this case, I am actually going to add a 3rd layer. My magic
Puffy pens.
I did a video with magic puffy pens exclusively, and you guys seem to like it a lot. Well, some of you liked it, and some of you were very unsettled. And I think the conclusion was that these would be better for a textural addition to a different page. Just a little light topping. Like, I shouldn't be exclusively coloring a full page in magic puffy pens. Instead, I can use it as a little extra something something. As requested, yes, sometimes I do actually listen to requests. I did purchase a heat gun because I was told that the heat gun would make my magic puffy pens work better. Gotta plug it in. Upon using this heat gun, I discovered that everyone was definitely correct. This worked so much better than my hairdryer. These things immediately puffed up so much faster, so much puffier. It was so much better, and I love the magic puffy pens. I know some people are really unsettled by them, but I gotta say, I think they're a really fun addition to a piece of art. And here we have the final page. I gotta say, this is kind of a silly way to represent a milkshake. My concept was the two bunnies are in love and they're sharing a milkshake. I thought it was very cute and comforting as well. And on the right, we do have a yellow version of Snowball. I didn't have a correct white. I guess I'll have to sew a Frosty plush to go with Snowball's plush. Okay, let's move on to the next page. I am actually flipping to a page that has been irking me that I never did it. I don't know why I never did, but somehow I skipped the materials page when I did the beginning pages. I thought this would be the perfect page to use in conjunction with the magic puffy pens. These are the colored pencils I decided to use. They're kind of on the brighter side. They're not really pastel colors. They're more of neon? No, they're not neon. They're vibrant colored pencils. Here's my thought process. The page before this also used these exact same colors, but everything was in blended diagonal lines. To maintain a similar theme, but also do something different, I decided to make circular patterns with the blended colors. At the end, it starts to look like a jawbreaker kind of looks. Each of the circles are different shapes and they kind of drip in different directions. They also start with different colors. I'm attempting to make sure that every color is placed next to a color it's actually next to in a rainbow, but red and green are next to each other right there, so not all things are perfect, but in general, the circles are supposed to be in rainbow order. You'll notice that I am coloring very lightly for the first pass. That's just because Prismacolor premieres in particular need the color built up slowly over time. Once I got the basic placement of where the colors were gonna go, I went back and started to darken things up slowly. Basically, if you press too hard with the colored pencils initially, bad things happen. I still probably am not the best at using these, but yeah, I'm trying. My real problem is that I'm very impatient and I don't like when things take a long time, so to build colors up slowly over such a long period of time, layer after layer after layer. So I really do get impatient, and eventually I just start blending things with a colored pencil, colorless blender. Was this totally ready to be blended? No, probably not. I can see white spaces in between the color, and that's usually a sign you're not supposed to blend yet, but I can do whatever I want. And now it's time for the magic puffy pens. I have decided that every utensil that's featured on this materials page is going to be filled in with a puffy pen color. I thought this was a fun way to incorporate the magic puffy pens and add a textural element to the page without totally making the whole page a big puffy mess. Although I will say the crayons did end up turning into a big puffy mess because all of the colors started to blend together. I should really have waited for them to dry before adding more of them. It's honestly looking more like I melted the crayons, but oh well. As I started to fill in these objects, I realized it would probably be better to space the liquid out and make it used a little more sparingly. Kind of use it as more of a detailed addition rather than the whole thing. So as I progressed, I added less paint on some of the objects. My absolute favorite was the watercolor paints because that was fun to put the little dots. And now it's time for the puffy pens to rise, or to puff up. I did realize that you can't hold the heat gun too long on this because things do get a little crispy. Honestly, heat guns kind of freak me out because they get very hot and it's like hot air blowing and you can like burn yourself really easily with them, so just be careful. Also, please, everyone, look at the glue. The glue rose so quickly, I was in love with it. Alright, I finished up applying the heat and making the puffy pens puff up, and here we have the final page. You'll notice that some of the objects, like the pencil, look like they almost went on fire. And that is because, yes, indeed, they did almost go on fire. Got a little crispy, but they still feel the same. They're just a little burnt in some places. If you are going to get the magic puffy pens, I actually would highly recommend getting a heat gun for it because it does rise a lot quicker and a lot easier. The burning / fire potential is a bit alarming, so I would say just make sure you're not applying the heat for too long. I applied the heat for too long because I was filming at the same time and wasn't paying attention. But you'll probably be fine. I have decided to randomly choose a page. I closed my eyes and we landed on Draw Your Puzzle. Draw something that needs to be solved. There are so many ways you could interpret this page. You could have a math problem that you need help solving. You could have a problem with one of your friends and you need a solution to the problem. Maybe every time you cook, the recipe you're reading has different cups and 1/3 of a cup and 1/4 of a cup, but oh wait, I'm only doing half the recipe, so I actually need 1/8 of a cup and a tablespoon and teaspoons. How does this convert? That's a puzzle that I often encounter. I actually could have drawn about that. This page could be meant to document anything in your life that you're finding puzzling or confusing at the moment. Or you could interpret the page how I chose to interpret the page, which is to draw my favorite type of puzzle. Now, there are actually a lot of types of puzzles out there. There's so many. There's the regular jigsaw puzzle. There's all different types of 3D puzzles. There are word puzzles, and there are logic puzzles, which are my personal fave. I love logic puzzles. Anything with math and logic is my absolute favorite. What I'm not a fan of is any type of word puzzle. Those do not vibe well with me. For example, there's this really popular word puzzle game called Wordscape. It's an app, and there's bubbles of letters, and you're supposed to connect the letters to create words. And I'm telling you, I have never been so bad at a game. It is literally embarrassing. Any type of word puzzle, really, even crossword puzzles, I find absolutely perplexing. But if you give me a math or logic puzzle, those are right up my alley. Come to think of it, this is probably a pretty divisive topic. I'd be interested to know, do you guys like math and logic puzzles or word puzzles better? I suppose it's possible that we could like both, but what is your favorite? As I've said many times, although we do have a lot of new people here, so you guys might not know, I work full-time as a computer scientist, majored in computer science and math, so that's where the logic and math thing is coming from. My favorite type of puzzle is actually Sudoku, and my tragic flaw with it is I always say Sudoku by accident. I'll try my best not to make that mistake here today. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and don't know what Sudoku is, how do I say it? It's a 9x9 grid. You have to have all 9 numbers 1 through 9, in each column and each row, and also in each 3x3 box. I feel like that explanation was so confusing. I am so sorry. It really sounds more confusing than it is. Once you start doing it, you'll get the hang of it, and children do it all the time, so it's really not that hard. There are harder versions of it, like there's easy up to expert level of Sudoku, but once you start doing it, you would get the hang of it. When I was little, I used to have books of Sudoku, and I would use them in the car when we were traveling. I would fill out my Sudoku in the car because I just really liked logic puzzles, and it's still probably my favorite type of puzzle. On the right of my Sudoku puzzle, I have decided to start drawing a bunny. And the bunny is going to have a confused, perplexed, or even puzzled face on. Get it? 'Cause this is the puzzle page? Yes. I'm sure some of you have noticed at this point that I have kind of an obsession with drawing bunnies. It's honestly not even a new or recent thing. This is kind of just something I've always done. For some reason, it's like my go-to animal. Sometimes people draw bears or puppies first, but my animal has always been a bunny. Like, if you tell me to draw something really quick, I will 9 times out of 10 draw a bunny. And that is what I have done here. I took my time trying to figure out the hand and the ear positioning on this bunny because I really want it to be cute but also look confused, and I really love the way it came out. On the bottom of our Sudoku, I told you it's a tragic flaw. I say it wrong every time. Anyway, I filled in the puzzle with the numbers, the starting numbers, that is. Like, each puzzle will start with a certain amount of numbers, and your job is to fill in the rest. I also added my Bella signature with the shooting star, and I decided to color in the puzzle part of the prompt. And here we have the final result of my Draw Your Puzzle page, where I have drawn Sudoku and a very puzzled bunny next to it. I love this page. This is one of my favorite pages that I've done recently in Draw Your Journal. I love the puzzle Sudoku and Sudoku. Oh my gosh, I can't say my favorite puzzle's name. Okay. Let's move on to the next page in Draw Your Journal, which is going to be another one that I really like. It's Draw Your Past, Present, and Future. Off camera, I drew 3 different pictures, and I'm going to take out my eraser and erase them so you can barely see them. The prompt, Draw Your Past, Present, and Future, is something that I have wanted to do for a while, but it's also one of those ones that it's like kind of confusing. It's like, what? My past? My present? My future? This is all so vague and abstract, I don't really know what to pick. But it's actually not as confusing as it sounds. I don't know if anyone else is confused by it. If you have Draw Your Journal, I haven't heard any complaints about this page, but for me, this is one of the pages that I've been looking at it and being like, what the heck am I gonna draw on this page? But after I thought about it for a while, I actually had quite a few different options. If I had drawn this page last year, I could have drawn like single, engaged, married for past, present, future, and that would have been a good option. If you're in school, you could draw last year's grade, your current grade, and next year's grade. Or if you're, say, growing a plant, you could draw your plant as a seed in the past, your plant how it looks right now, and your plant how it might look in the future. If you're in high school or college, you could draw yourself studying, and then you could draw yourself looking for a job in the present, and then you can draw yourself with your dream job in the future. Ooh, this could also apply to dogs or any kind of pet, really. If you have a dog, you could draw it in the past as a puppy, how he looks right now, and how he looks in the future. There's so many different options. I just, like, for some reason was getting, like, my mind so confused about it, and I was like, what do I draw? But I did come up with something. As a lot of you know, because I made a video about it, I am pregnant. And as a pregnant woman, I have been calling myself a kangaroo.
What?
I just feel like a Wait, let me explain. I just feel like a kangaroo because kangaroos have like little pouches and there's a baby inside, and I feel like I'm just like growing a baby inside of a kangaroo pouch. I don't know if that's relatable to any of you listening here, but that's how I feel. So I've decided to draw myself as a kangaroo because I feel like a kangaroo at present, right now. In the past, I didn't really actually feel like a kangaroo. I only feel like a kangaroo right now, but just to keep it consistent, I have drawn a past version of myself as a regular, not pregnant kangaroo. In present time, I have drawn myself as a round, pregnant kangaroo, and in the future, I will become a kangaroo that is holding a baby, also known as a mom. Okay, we're moving on to the kangaroo in the future tense, and I want everyone together to just take a note and look at the feet on this future kangaroo. She has her feet both facing outward in a very awkward, almost like squatting stance. And I don't know. That was not my intention, but I don't know. Somehow she just ended up looking like she's in some sort of like sumo wrestler kind of stance. I tried my best with drawing these feet, but I honestly just ended up giving up because I didn't know how to position them. So everyone ignore it together. I did add some blush for this kangaroo because I thought that looked cute, like she's all happy to hold her baby. And you'll notice that her pouch has some pink and blue in it, but it's mostly tan like it was in the past tense. That is because in the past she was just a regular kangaroo with a tan pouch. In the present she became pink and blue because she's holding a baby, and in the future she is forever changed by having become a mother. Aww. I'm adding the finishing touches to these 3 kangaroos by adding some glimmers in their eyes. And here we have the final result of this past, present, and future page. I Love the way this came out. I love that I was able to document that I keep calling myself a kangaroo, which is really just a personal joke that I have with myself, and I really just like the kangaroos. I think they turned out so cute. I noticed that my cover is getting quite dirty, mostly from colored pencils, and if yours is also getting dirty, I have a solution for you. If you take any kind of all-purpose cleaning product and spray it on the cover of this, it should clean things up really well. The cover has a waxy finish on it, and it's very easy to clean. Mine looks totally brand new after wiping it down. Okay, now that we've cleaned the cover of my Draw Your Journal, it's time to choose a page. I've decided to choose this page at random. I closed my eyes and just flipped to a random page. And the page we landed on is Draw Your Motto. Draw a phrase that describes your beliefs. If you're new here and don't know what Draw Your Journal is, it's a prompt journal that's meant to be a visual diary about your life. So each of the pages are meant to describe you and your life, things you like, things you do, etc. This page is Draw Your Motto. I'm sure there are a lot of ways you could interpret this page. The way that I'm interpreting it is a motto is something that is like a phrase that describes your purpose or your general approach to things. Initially, the first phrase I thought of for this page was make a plan, but be flexible. And when I really started to think about why I wanted to choose that phrase, I came up with a new phrase. But initially I wanted make a plan, but be flexible because in general, my approach to life, my motto is that you should always plan for things and then be flexible if things change. I like to make plans for the future, like big picture plans that are way down the line. I've got like a 3, 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan in my head. But then, on a day-to-day basis, I like to be flexible. And the reason I like to be flexible and go with the flow is because I really want to leave room for God to guide my day-to-day happenings. Often when things pop up and redirect me to do a different activity on a day-to-day basis, I view that as something that God has planned for me to do. That doesn't mean that I won't be working towards my long-term goals, but maybe I'll be doing it in a different way than I would have planned. So that is why I decided to actually change my motto and make it God's plan is better. Because while I have a lot of plans and I love planning, I also really want to be able to be flexible and go with the flow and really take in what God's plans are for my life. And I feel like that is a good explanation of my general mentality on life. And of course, I recognize not everyone's motto is going to be my motto. Your motto might be totally different, or you might have absolutely no idea what your motto is. And if you're having trouble with this page, my suggestion would be to Google mottos. It sounds dumb, but honestly, this is what I did when I was struggling coming up with a motto, because there are so many of them on the internet, and you can just browse through them and find one that you feel like you relate to the most. Or even one that you just find inspirational, even if it's not something you currently do. Just a motto you think you could aspire to, almost like an inspirational quote. After I had finished fixing my letters, I decided to color in the bottom part of the page. Under the rainbow and under the sea, we're coloring like an ocean water scene. Layering colored pencils is literally my least favorite thing in the whole entire world, so we're gonna skip ahead to when it's blended. Ah, there it is. I colored any letters that were touching the water with a light blue color because I wanted them to look like they were under the sea. I also took out my white Posca paint pen and created some bubbles. After I had added all of the bubbles in white, I took out some more Posca paint pens and added little lines to parts of the bubbles. If you use multiple colors on a bubble, it starts to look more like a bubble because bubbles have actually a lot of colors in them. Make sense? The water's not done, but we're gonna move on to the sky, and then we'll come back to the water. I'm adding some clouds. They're very light, and you can't really see them, because I was just planning out where I wanted the clouds to go, and then I started on the yellow sky. Really, I was planning out where I wanted the clouds to go because I wanted to leave some white spaces for the clouds. I used multiple different colors in the sky, like oranges and yellows, so that it looked like it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, the birds are flying around, the sky is filled with promise. Everyone's having a nice time. Back to the water, we're taking a white Posca paint pen and adding little water lines. I always like making water ripples like this. It's just little squiggly lines. To finish up the rainbow, I added some shading to each of the colors. Like under the pink, I put a darker pink, put a darker orange, etc. And now we're ready to take out a non-glossy decoupage. Non-glossy, I mean matte. It's not glossy, so that the pages will not stick together. And here we have the final page for Draw Your Motto. I really like this page, and it's nice for a change. I feel like I'm always very critical of things, and of course, nothing is going to be perfect, but I enjoy this page because I really like how colorful it is. Love the water, love the rainbow and the yellow sky. I feel like the motto really fits me and my personality, so I'm happy with this page, and we're gonna move on to the next page, which is Draw Your Partner in Crime. I decided to color this page digitally. I have a pack of 10 coloring pages available on my merch website. If you buy the pack, there's 10 different coloring pages. You can print them out and color them, or you can color them digitally. I have never shown you this page with Marina and Goldie, and I felt like it was the perfect page for drawing your partner in crime. I started off with the watercolor brush, and I wanted to create a background that was very blended looking with blues and greens and a little bit of a periwinkle purple color. After that was done, I moved on to our first fish friend, the octopus. Well, I don't know if octopuses are technically fish. Octopi? I feel like the answer is going to be no. Our second set of fishy friends are these goldfish, which actually just look like goldfish crackers, but they are not. They're not the food, they're the actual fish. Goldie is part goldfish, part mermaid, so it only makes sense that she would have some goldfish friends. And then we've got this guy who looks like he's just absolutely
Losing his mind.
He is obsessed with Goldie. He thinks she's the most beautiful mermaid he has ever seen. This fish is just cute. He's not doing anything wrong. He's just being adorable, being green. Kind of reminds me of Mike Wazowski, actually, now that I'm looking at it again. Over here, I've got a swordfish. I find this one really fun. I don't know why. I guess because he's just different. I guess I just really like his nose. Above that, we've got a fish that seems to be rejoicing. I've painted him red. And my favorite is the blowfish. At first, I painted the blowfish this fuchsia color, then I covered it with a lighter color, and I just love the blowfish. I love its awkward face. I love how stunned it looks. It's just my favorite. Before I go any further explaining my fishy friends, I do have to note the weekly mistake I've made. If you're astute, you'll notice that my night mode is on my iPad. So yes, everything does have a slight yellow tint to it, but I promise you that will change. I do notice, and I will turn it off. Ah, would you look at that? No more yellow. And now for the question we've all been wondering. Who is my partner in crime? Who's my best friend? You would think that I was drawing this page about my husband, but then you would look and you'd say, oh no, these are two girls. These are two mermaid friend girls that are not my husband. And you know what? I could have drawn my husband, but my real best friend is actually my sister, Alina. We go way back. Get away from me! I'm so scared! The two mermaids that I have drawn here always remind me of me and my sister. I think I would be Goldie in this case. Her energy reminds me of myself. She's a goldfish, so she's always like forgetting things and moving on to the next thing. And that's not to say that I forget things, because I don't really forget things, but temperamentally, I'm pretty sanguine in nature. I'm pretty expressive emotionally, and I kind of flick between one thing and another pretty quickly. Don't really hold things for too long, and I think that Goldie is kind of similar to that. Whereas Marina, I think, reminds me of Alina, and it could just be because their names rhyme. No, it's not just because their names rhyme. I feel like Marina looks like Alina's vibe. Alina has a drama to her, and she is kind of sanguine sanguine, like she'll flip between things temperamentally, but also she has a very deep thoughtfulness to her. She's very scientific and she really thinks about things. And I feel like Marina, when you look at her, she's got like heavy eyelids and she's really deep in thought. I think temperamentally that's considered melancholic. Anyway, I printed out the page and put it into the book. So here we have the final partner in crime page. I am obsessed with the way this came out. I love all the fish in the background. I've been dying to show you these. I find all of their little expressions hilarious. So for this episode, I was trying to figure out which page to do, and I finally decided on draw your question. Draw something you want to know more about. So for me, this is going to be something personal to me, since this is my diary. And I do have one question that has been haunting me for almost 9 months now. It's like 8 and something. I want to know what my baby looks like. I've had the regular sonograms, like the 2D sonograms, but my doctor does not do 3D sonograms, and I really just want to know what my baby looks like. Like, what does his face look like? As we all know, I'm a very visual person, very artistic. I like art, I like visual things, so it is driving me insane that I don't know what my baby looks like. So I thought for this page, it would be fun if I guessed what my baby looks like. I had a strong debate about what the baby should be wearing. At first I put him in a collared shirt, which honestly I deeply regret changing him out of. Then I changed it to a popped collar, which was weird. Then I put him in a hoodie with bear ears, and then that was cute, but I changed it, erased that, and put him in a hoodie. A regular hoodie. I feel like mistakes were made here. I personally wish we could go back to the popped collar, but we landed on the hoodie, and we can't go back now, even if we wish we could. Now that we have a nice sketch of my child, we're going to erase it so you can just barely see it. And I'm going to be taking out something I haven't used in a while. My Himi gouache set. I opened it up and discovered that it was so crusty. It was disgusting. Everything had dried up, and it was no longer the jelly that it once was. I mean, seriously, when I first opened this thing, it used to be little pots of jelly. It was so cute and fun, and now it is disgusting. But I figured out that you actually can reactivate Himi gouache jellies. All you really need is some warm water and time. A lot of time. And patience. Also, a lot of mixing. Did I mention there was a lot of mixing involved? No? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of mixing and a lot of mushing. You have to pour the warm water in and then let it sit there for like at least 30 minutes. I would say maybe an hour. And then maybe pour some more water in if it soaks it all up. And then there's lots of chunks that are kind of fun to mix, but also kind of not fun to mix. Like they're kind of like chunky and you're like, oh, this is interesting. This texture, it feels very mushy. A little bit like clay when you wet it. Oh my gosh, okay, look at this green. This is a perfect example of what I was dealing with. It was very fun, like texturally, it was like kind of gooey, but also a little dangerous. You're like, is this gonna get into the other paint pots? Am I going to ruin everything? Should I be removing this paint pot so that I'm not splashing things into other paint pots? Like so. Ultimately, this one was not that hard to fix. I kind of just mixed it and the color kind of disappeared, so let's just pretend that never happened. This one is disgusting. This looks like actual... Shoot, we're all out of white. Not a problem. I actually have an extra tube of white paint because this Himi gouache ran out of white paint like so quickly. I cleaned up the paint pot and put some extra white in there and we're good to go. And here we have my somewhat revived gouaches. There is still some chunkiness underneath all of the goo, but I'm assuming as the days progress, as the water soaks in, it'll become easier to mix together, and right now this is usable. So let's take our Draw Your Journal back out. I'm adding some extra pages behind so I don't ruin the other pages, and I'm going to start painting my child's potential face. Now you might be asking yourself, Marissa, where did you get the inspiration for this baby's face? Did it just come poof randomly into your mind? Did you use a combination of maybe what your husband looks like and what you look like and try to morph them together? Is this not your child at all and perhaps just a drawing of your baby born?
Poor baby born, please don't cry anymore, 'cause your mommy is here, baby born, baby born.
When baby born cries, she's thirsty.
Baby born, baby born. I'm getting off topic. I had a dream. I had a dream like a year no, not this Christmas, the Christmas before. So almost 2 years, I guess it's a year and a half ago, I had a dream. And I had a child, and he was a baby boy, okay? So I was already right about the gender. And in this dream, I saw a baby that looked mostly like my husband, but a little like me. And I want to test if this is correct. So I am doing my best to paint a version of the baby that I saw in my dream a year and a half ago. I realize this makes me sound like an insane person to roughly 50% of you, but I am trying to replicate the baby that I saw in the dream a year and a half ago. At this point, a year and a half ago makes things
A bit murky.
I am trying my best to recall the details. I feel like if I saw the baby in person, I would go, oh yeah, that is 100% the baby from my dream, or no, I was totally incorrect. Like, I'll be able to know when I see my child if I was correct, but for now, we're just guessing. Now, because the dream was so long ago, I did have to take some creative liberties here, and I did incorporate what I know my husband's baby picture looked like and what I know my baby picture looked like. When I was a baby, I had a very wide face, very round, circular, big eyes that are far apart. My husband has a taller face that's a little bit, well, it's not really that thin, but I guess as a baby it was just taller than my face was. My face was shorter, and his eyes are pretty wide set, but they're more almond shaped, a little bit less wide and round. I also had to take into consideration the fact that I'm 99% sure my father-in-law cloned himself when he created my husband. They are literally clones of each other. They look exactly the same. It's actually kind of spooky, but I am going based on the assumption that history will repeat itself, and I will also have a son that is a clone of my husband. Just a little tiny husband clone walking around my house. The only thing I did decide to change, and this was based off of my dream, my husband has green eyes, but in the dream, the baby had blue eyes, which kind of makes sense. My father-in-law has blue eyes and my mom has blue eyes, so I don't know if the baby's going to have blue eyes, but that was just in my dream. I was leaning towards like a green or a hazel, since that makes kind of logically more sense for us, but we're painting it as blue because the dream might be right. I'm adding some finishing details to my very tiny little Polish-looking son, since my husband looks mostly Polish, so that's why it looks like a little Polish baby. I am not Polish, but I'm assuming, yeah, it's not gonna look like me, but maybe he will look like me. I don't know. Maybe we'll all be wrong. Once the baby was pretty much done, I decided to color in the background, or paint in the background, with this bright orange or saffron color. And once I had the background painted, I took out my black Sharpie and decided to draw out my question, which is, what will my son look like? I drew a big question mark and filled it in with some of the blue from the eye color, and then I took out my baby shower thank you notes. I have a little tiny picture of my 20-week sonogram of my child. He looked adorable. Look at this. He's the cutest little nose. I thought it would be cute if I added the sonogram to this page. There was a lot of thought and trepidation about where to place the sonogram. Ultimately, I chose the bottom left corner. I don't know if that was a good spot, but that's what I went with. I feel like this sonogram is kind of feasible for the baby I drew. Maybe. And here is my final prediction of what my son will look like. I have no way of confirming at this moment if this is actually correct, but I promise when I do a flip through, I'll tell you if I was anywhere near close to guessing correctly. I also realized that this episode did not have as many pages as usual. Like I said in my pregnancy announcement video, some of my videos might be a little shorter or have a little less content for a few months around the time where my baby is born, but I'll still be here posting as usual. I love posting on YouTube and I definitely don't want to stop. If you want to see me do more pages on Draw Your Journal, I have a whole playlist for that linked in one of these 2 boxes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another video. Bye! If you've stuck around this long, well, that is a lot of time to be watching Draw Your Journal videos. I'm sure you had it on the background or something. That is crazy though. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I will see you guys next week for another video. Bye!